This is Corolla Digital.
Hello, my little jello fingers. It's me, Alison. Before the show officially starts, a few words. 1. Have you ever heard a noise coming from the other room and thought someone is either exercising, putting together furniture, or masturbating? Because I feel like I have this thought a lot. Basically, whenever I hear deep breathing coming from somewhere near me, or perhaps on the phone. But I don't pick up my phone, so don't call me, creeps. Anyway, some iTunes comments of the week, I believe, would be in order.
Alison wants your iTunes comments. Alison wants them, yes she does. Please leave her some iTunes comments and don't forget to click 5 stars.
Okay, this first one, and by the way, I think I'm just going to read one, but I'm making it sound like there's a whole bunch. There are a whole bunch, mind you, but I'm just going to read one today. The first one's so funny. I love Alison. When she talks about her history with men and her irrational thoughts and ways of dealing with her boyfriend, I feel so unalone, the way a best friend should make you feel. She is hilarious, and sometimes I wish the podcast was just her and Gary. Thanks, Alison. Someday when you write the world's funniest guide to dating, I will be first in line to get it signed. I hope this doesn't come off as a backhanded compliment, because that's totally not how I mean it. Crap, it really sounds rude, but my delete button is broken. Darn it. Please don't put me on the FU segment. Couple things. It doesn't sound rude at all. But I appreciate the concern. I find that people who listen to the show, for the most part, I think are nice people. And nice people sometimes worry that things they say come out wrong, especially if they're listening to a show where the host talks about things that people have said that have been kind of crappy. But if you are worried, like, okay, let me back up. 99.99999.8. It's a lot of points and 9s and 8s in that number, which is not a real number. The vast majority of the time, when people tell me that they're worried that something they said came out wrong, it didn't come out wrong. And I would almost say by definition, if you're worried that it may have sounded harsh, then you don't really even need to worry. It's the people who aren't at all concerned about the effect their words are having on other people, or who are actually trying to be dicks, that are succeeding at being dickish. But I know that you guys are delightful and nice, and I can tell when someone's being a prick and when they're not. So if you're worried that you are, I don't think you are. Did that make sense? I'm going to hope so. And the other thing is that I love making people feel less alone. That's kind of the whole point, because we are all in this thing together. This thing being, now would be a good time to have something funny to say, but instead I just have something sincere to say. This thing called life. Ugh, that was too sincere. I've overshot the mark, and now I'm just clearing my throat into the mic. Whoa. I just moved, by the way. I'm sitting here surrounded by boxes and dust. Not that much dust, just enough to cause that little throat thing. But yeah, it's, wow. Moving sucks. I'm happy to be in the new place, but I cannot state enough how unsettling I find moving. And I have moved too many times for someone to still react this way every single time it happens. So there's that. But I love you guys, and thank you for listening. And if you want to leave an iTunes comment, just please do. And what the hell, click 5 stars. And click through my Amazon banner if you want to help the show. That's at AlisonRosen.com. You can find that. It doesn't cost you anything extra. And thank you for listening, and for telling your friends, and for being awesome, and for letting me know how the show makes you feel. And my guests on this show are the Sklar Brothers, and they were delightful. And I think you will find that you feel that way about them as well. Okay, I love you guys, and here's the episode.
Alison Rosen is your new best friend. Alison, with her good times never end. Alison Rosen, doing the wavy pencil dance again. Alison's your new best friend.
Hey everyone, hi, hello, it's me, Alison Rosen, and welcome to another episode of Alison Rosen is Your New Best Friend. I'm sitting here with Sklars, identical twins,
All
Jason and Randy Sklar.
That's right.
And are there more Sklars?
No.
Yeah, there are. I mean, there's
Are you guys together, only children?
We're an only child.
entity.
Yes.
No, but we have kids, and
Those are Sklars. There's another funny writer, comedian.
Chuck Sklar.
Chuck Sklar, very funny.
There's Rachel Sklar, a media reporter.
We know Rachel Sklar.
very
There you
sweet.
go.
Very,
There you go.
Very
But
funny,
I meant,
sweet girl.
did your parents sire more Sklars?
Stopped with us.
No.
I love the idea of parents siring kids.
I think that's how they do it, isn't it?
By the way,
I mean, you can also whelp.
I love the opening song.
Oh,
And
thanks.
I thought that Jim Blossoms, the lead singer, was dead.
No.
He's actually.
Ooh,
Wait a
touche.
second.
In your
Wow.
face.
Listen.
Tom Rapp, Trap Dog. That's who does the songs.
Oh, I was
Yeah.
thinking
In
that's
your
so.
face.
I was thinking that's so amazing that there's a song out there that existed, and then
It's
You
where I
decided
got
to
the
do a
idea.
podcast.
I know.
That's so
thank God
lucky.
it didn't. Thank God it wasn't like Alison Rosen is such a fucking cunt.
No.
because I'd have to have a totally different tone to the show.
That would, and you know what? That
That's a
wouldn't
Spin
have been
Doctor
you.
song. That's actually a Spin Doctor
Exactly.
song.
Seriously, man,
Chris
whatever
Barron.
happened to them? Pocket full of kryptonite.
Chris Barron, I heard him like back on Sirius Radio doing like acoustic stuff
I actually just heard John Popper talking about him.
about the Spin
Doctors.
then
But
they
I don't
had,
know what he was saying. I just heard. I thought
They
that
had a
this whole thing was
horde-
funny.
He was saying if my stomach staples worked, I'd look like the lead singer of.
I look like Chris
Of the
Barron.
Spin
Something
Doctors.
like that.
Yes.
Yes.
Chris Barron was like the physical manifestation of the overall unbuttoned.
Yes,
Like
he
one
was.
overall flap
yes,
down.
if that style faux pas could grow feet and hands, it was
It's like,
Chris
hey,
Barron.
I'm farming, but I don't really care.
That's right.
I don't care about being buttoned up on the farm.
Hey, we're just cooking veggie burritos over here. We're not bothering anyone.
yeah.
And yet, I feel like he's cosmically closer to Alanis Morissette singing about India than to Kid Rock, who also just doesn't care and is kind of farming.
Kid Rock is. I don't think Kid Rock is farming as much as
Hydroponically farming,
Like,
in the back
his
of the
description of a bumper
Yeah.
crop would literally be a field full of like car bumpers from
Yes.
Detroit.
Oh, that's good.
Hey, he's from Detroit, man. He's just
Is
singing
that
about
where
his
he's?
place.
Is he from Detroit?
Yeah, he never
He
really
doesn't
or
makes
does
say
he
sense
just
it
clear.
embody it?
Yes.
He doesn't say it enough.
It's a shame. Yeah, he's so classy.
So for people that I feel like everyone knows who you are, but for the few who don't and who don't feel like Googling right this minute, you guys are identical twin comedians and writers, and you're from United Stats of America, which is about to air again on H2, which is the cooler version of the History Channel.
It's the smarter.
The Deuce.
The smarter
History's
Wait,
Deuce.
is because the History Channel is just a little too stupid.
You don't think that shooting alligators?
Oh, is that on the History Channel now?
Oh, yeah.
That would now. Shooting alligators and Pawn Stars has sort of dominated history
Right.
programming.
Which, by the way, like that's been the most successful formula in all of cable television.
I
Like
wonder if
short of
there's-
like showing sporting events, like History Channel has
the best
figured it out.
ratings can, without having
Yeah.
a sporting event on the network. Other than jousting, they do have jousting. But
They
the
do.
point is that like that's that. So a show like ours, which was, hey, we're going to teach you some stuff and it's going to be funny and whatnot, just didn't really fit the bill there. But they have shows on H2 that are like Ancient Aliens and
How the states got their shapes.
Brian Unger show,
Brian
which is
Unger
really
was
funny. So
hilarious.
I mean, look, we'll see how it does there. Going to run the whole series again. We'll see what it does.
And also, you guys host Sklarbro Country and Sklarbro County. Now,
Yes.
two things. First of all, I, up till this morning, thought it was Sklarbro, which,
Sklarbro.
like, really a closer,
To
takeoff
Scarborough.
of.
Scarborough
Or
Country or
Marlboro.
Marlboro?
That's what I was thinking.
Sklarbro.
I'm sorry.
I
I
mean,
mean, I'm not
you know-
H2 material, but then
Hey.
I was like, oh, it's Sklarbro. That makes so much more sense.
Right.
Because we're brothers. We're the Sklar Bros.
Yeah, no, believe me. You don't. I'm not that
It
stupid.
makes sense, and that's
Yeah.
what we're going
We wanted
for.
to create a place where people could go.
A magical land.
Because I do think that these podcasts, I don't know if you agree with this or encounter this with your fans, that they go off in their brains, whether you're
Yeah,
helping them get through
ideally.
their commute or helping them get through exercising or whatever crappy part of their day. They go off to another place. And we were like, well, let's let this be kind of a nice little oasis for you, and let's craft this place the way we want it. This is the way we would want to do it in this period of time.
Was that the county or the country that came first?
Both. I mean, county lives
came
in the
fir-
country.
Yeah, the county is the county is in the country, yet it
covers less,
terrain.
surface area, but it's very potent. And
Is
it's
it more
really
like Narnia or Xanadu or Brigadoon?
It's like, how you go into the wardrobe to get to Narnia?
Yes.
So it's before you get to the land, you've got to walk through a lot. Like it's a
Coats.
big, long
It's like a lot of
walk-in
coats.
closet. So
Yeah.
it's the area where all the shoes are.
fun. Yeah, and the coats.
That's the county.
Yeah, it smells like coats. But it's really, really a fun place to come.
It's
You are
really-
welcome to come to either one.
Either one.
Whichever one fits your schedule. You're welcome to come
enjoy.
But what is the difference actually?
County is 45 minutes to an hour, and it's our buddy Dan Van Kirk, who is kind of like the you to Corolla on the Corolla podcast.
Oh, the thing that makes the show good?
Yes.
You're the kind of that ingredient. He co-hosts it with us, and he brings up a bunch of stories. Very funny guy. He brings up a bunch of stories in the world of sports and then non-sports, and we bat them around. And it's more sort of loosely improv than the show that we do, Sklarbro Country, which is a little
We write a lot more of that show. We actually write a lot of the jokes and the material, and we...
So that takes more preparation,
Takes more preparation, and then there's like sort of a more formal interview in the first show, although in county, when we have guests on, we end up kind of throughout the whole show just talking and
asking
getting
questions
out the
about
story
them.
about
And so
them,
it's a little more organic than the country's a little more
it's a show.
structured.
Yeah, it's
more
like a scripted show.
Are they both weekly?
Yes, every week. And, you know,
County
we did
comes out on Tuesdays.
We did it because we were doing one a week, and people were emailing us and saying, like, hey, I wish there was something that came out on Tuesday, something that
I
got
get
us
that.
midweek.
A midweek snack.
So we started off saying, all right, this will just be a midweek snack. It'll just be me and Randy and Dan for 30 to 40 minutes just kicking stuff around. But then we started to say, well, what if we threw a guest in the mix here? I think it'd be really fun. And then what if we added this element? So now it's kind of grown to become its own.
And it becomes a
podcast.
bit of a catch-all. Like, we have these guys coming on this week. It's going to be for the county for next week. And they're just guys that we know because we're soccer fans, and they used to have a great soccer show on Sirius XM.
And Fox Soccer Channel.
Fox
right?
Soccer Channel or whatever. They just had like a great show, and then there was a crazy controversy where they got kicked off the air, and now they do their own podcast.
Ooh, for people that might know, who are we talking about?
Stephen Cohn and Kenny Hassan. Stephen Cohn made some comments about Liverpool and like, you know.
Well, there were some Liverpool fans who got angry. Liverpool fans were angry at, let's see if I got this right, at like
You're not going to get this right.
Italy.
I wouldn't have known.
Liverpool fan, there was a problem, okay? A lot of Liverpool fans showed up without tickets to a match between Liverpool and a team in Italy.
Are
all
they
right?
called Liverpudlians?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes.
That's my favorite part.
That was great, right?
Fantastic. And so they showed up
Yeah, I don't
to
know
the
how you got
stadium.
from pool to puddles.
That's
I guess a
diminutive.
puddle is a smaller pool.
Yeah.
So they showed up without tickets to this game, and they weren't allowed.
They kind of
in.
bum rushed in there, and then a bunch of people got crushed as they were trying to get out, and like
People died, and so all that Stephen Cohn was suggesting was that the people who showed up without tickets and got drunk and started like ruining the town and then bum rushed the place, some of those people died. It's hard not to say that they played some role in the situation that created. That's a horrible
Wherever
situation.
you come down on that thing,
Right.
is
Are
a very
they
much,
great white?
It's a hot button issue. Great white,
Gray
good
White,
call.
that's also great. But
So I mean, it's like, where do you come down on that issue? And
so
then
he posited an issue. He threw his hat in the ring there, and then got like death threats from like Liverpool.
people are
fans.
like, I know where you live. I'm going to kill you. Because it
Jeez.
gets that fanatical.
Yeah.
And
And
so,
then it got too hot buttony, and then they. Had
but the
to
point
kick
is
off
that
there.
a lot of our listeners are not soccer fans, but these guys are great, and we've kind of come on their show before, and so we were like, you know what, the county would be a great place to have these guys on and just to get deep into soccer. Our friend Michael Costa, who's a comedian, was a professional tennis player. We got so deep into, like, because we're fans of tennis, we got so deep into the, you know, sort of a tennis discussion. It is a sports and comedy podcast, for those who don't
Oh
know.
yes, that's right.
We didn't
It is.
actually mention that, but it's
I'm
sports
going
and
to
comedy.
have to use this moment of you mentioning tennis to bring up something which is painful for me, which is that on the Adam Carolla show,
Yeah.
we were talking about people who have like one arm that's bigger than the other or something like that. And I
Right.
said, yeah, like tennis players.
Rafa
and you
Nadal.
could have thank you. You could have heard a fucking needle drop in here as everyone,
Nadal's-
3 sports people, Bob Bryan, Adam, and someone else.
Didn't get it.
No,
Didn't
they
know.
all looked at me like I was crazy, and I'm like,
We gotta take that up
everyone
with
knows,
Adam.
except for you fuckers, that in
Yes.
tennis it's common that one arm gets bigger. Yes.
Your stronger arm. I mean, you look at Rafael Nadal. His left arm.
Rafael
is
Nadal's
enormous.
left arm is almost as big as Serena's right arm.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But I thought that this is just fact, and people have sent me articles that state that it is fact, and I'm like, yeah, I know.
It is
Right.
fact.
Oh,
if you
thank you.
if you hit a ball over and over with one hand, it's going to get bigger than the other hand.
That's right.
If you
Thank
hit
you.
a child over and over with one hand,
with one arm, your
That's why you
forearms are going to get so
you have
ripped.
to beat your kid.
That's
you have to
why
be ambidextrous
there's a
with
great workout tape for that.
it's called "There Goes Honey Boo Boo."
Yeah.
Like, honey,
it. Have you been watching that show?
Honey Boo Boo. I just saw the clip of them dumpster diving, and you know what? Here's the thing: the little fat kid is my favorite. I
course.
think the little fat kid is cute. Is that Honey Boo Boo?
The little girl who's
Yeah.
fat?
Yeah, that's Honey
I mean,
Boo Boo.
it's all of them, kind of.
Is
But
the
yeah,
li-
that's
the
Honey
little
Boo Boo.
girl is
Yes,
Honey Boo Boo.
yes, yes.
I
Don't
believe
out
she was
yourself
on
as not knowing what it is.
Toddlers and Tiaras.
She was.
She came from that.
She
yeah.
came from that world.
How
and now
can we
she's
get
living-
her together with the fat woman on Dance Moms?
How is a show not amazing that's in English and subtitled?
Exactly.
Such a good point.
Anytime,
How
yeah.
much?
That happens
that's
a lot on Swamp People.
Swamp People on History. That's what
They'll
like.
do that, but-
Shoot That Sumbitch is like actually a printed subtitle that they just go back to over and over again. What did he
Yeah.
say right there?
Shoot
just
that
throw in
son-
"Shoot That
just-
Some
He
Bitch"
said
and we're good to
something,
go.
and I think it's shoot,
Shoot
that,
that
son
son
bitch. But little Honey Boo Boo, yeah, little. I call
Do
her
you call it Little Honey Boo Boo?
because I like that. I like to make her smaller
Little
than she is.
Little Honey Boo Boo hopping
Oh,
through
yes.
the dumpster, picking out the
and bopping him on the head.
Yes.
Did
Bopping him
everyone
on the
sing that
neck.
in school, or just
We did.
we?
Little
Gary,
Honey-
does this song mean anything to you?
No.
Little Bunny Foo Foo?
I'm wondering
It
if
was like a weird
Little
sort of
Honey Boo Boo.
cautionary tale.
if she fucks Lamar Odom, then get ready for the Kardashian wrath to get down on this girl.
I
Yeah.
do want who you want Little Honey Boo Boo to find?
No,
Yes.
Chris
Kris
Jenner. For a
Kardashian.
second, I blanked out.
I think he took
has
her
already
last name.
spoken out against
Little Honey Boo Boo.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I love. Yeah, she's taking
like,
the
whoa,
moral.
whoa, whoa.
She's threatened.
Don't you infringe on our territory
Right.
of having no talent and all of a sudden being
exploiting our
famous.
kids.
That
Does
is
she
not
do that?
cool.
This is a liquid brunch.
Yeah.
That's what she ended it with.
Exactly.
I love the drunk clip of her going into a pool, just like after lunch.
So I have so many questions.
Please.
And, okay, I'm going to start with the fact that you guys, to get onto my podcast, requested, quote unquote, an annoying, maybe it was Gary who called it that, but an annoying number. You said remind us a lot. And then Gary said, okay, annoying number of reminders to follow.
I'll tell you why.
And then we annoyed you with reminders, but
And I
was
forgot
thinking.
today.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
And I wore-
I'm just wondering, does this system normally work for you? Because what if the person reminding you is forgetful?
Well, here's the thing. Like, I just know that there have been moments like we do a weekly segment on NPR. That's a weekly segment that we do on NPR. And I think sometimes if we're not around, we have to record it the day before. We set a meeting like 2 weeks ago to go in and do it at like 2 p.m. when we normally do it at 10. 2 p.m. on Wednesday and we normally do it at 10. We set the meeting and we missed it.
Yeah, there was a call we were on that started to run long, and
I've missed
We kept
flights.
looking at each other and we were like, do we
What
have
something? What do we have to do today? I think we just have so many little things to do that I was like, look, I know this is going to be annoying, and I even set that up to Gary. I was like, I know it's going to be annoying, but please just remind us a bunch
So
of times.
was it annoying for us to ask to be annoyingly
Oh
reminded?
no,
Okay.
no! I don't think it was. It wasn't annoying for you to ask. It just made me think: does this normally work?
Yes.
Handing the responsibility of reminding you to someone else.
Has to.
Has
It seemed
to.
unorthodox.
You know
I don't
what?
trust myself.
Let me just say this: I really appreciate how
Oh,
many times you did it, and
happy
so
to do it.
you know, it's like again, one email. It's really not a big deal, but
I don't know
it
why
winds up-
Gary's all of a sudden so upset.
Yeah, Gary.
It's just weird that he's coming down on
I
us
had
so
to.
hard.
I had to talk him into.
you had to talk him down.
I had to talk him
From a
into
lawful
not
edge.
canceling this because
Right.
he's like, I can't. This is not part of my
And
job.
did
and
he
I was
say,
like, yeah,
"Please
but
remind me not to cancel this"? Like a bunch of times, remind
exactly,
me not
yeah.
to cancel this.
I had reminders set to remind him.
Yes.
To remind you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What the hell are you drinking? That's what I want to know.
Oh, this is.
Do they sponsor your show? Do you have to drink it because they
No,
sponsor?
I actually like it. It's wild cherry flavor sparkling water beverage from Safeway, and it's 0 calories
Is
and
it one
zero
of those
everything.
There are some places that say it's wild cherry flavor, and then it's like super sweet with like.
This is that. This is when people take a sip, they're like, "Oh,
Oh.
I
Didn't realize.
Oh,
I
that's one of
expect,
those.
Yeah, because you expect it to be like a very lightly flavored
To like
beverage.
not taste like anything
You
and
expect
be
it to taste
like,
like water with a hint. No,
like
this
the
is
essence
there's a
of
hint
black
of
cherry.
water.
Yeah.
There's a hint of water in it.
but it's mostly just fake flavoring.
It's like it should be like a supermodel fart. It just kind of goes in the air and then it just
Just
kind of
sig-
sprinkles down.
like do you think it would be like a suggestion of fart when a
Yes.
supermodel farts?
It's
Yes.
not even. It's like it's adjacent to a regular fart.
They hold it in. And then that's how they die inside.
Did you know that Gary and Fred Armisen don't allow themselves to sneeze in public? They just hold them in. They hold their
Whoa.
sneezes in.
Armisen, I could see him doing that. And it just, if you ever see him contorting his face,
Now you know.
Yeah.
But Gary, I didn't realize that about
He
him.
doesn't seem like a sneeze
It's on
hoarder.
my Wikipedia page.
Why? But why hold it in?
Yeah.
Why not? I mean, I feel like sneezing is something people.
First of all,
would assume.
congratulations on having a Wikipedia page. That's
I
great
don't.
news.
I absolutely don't.
It's-
No, I just.
He's afraid
I
he's going to
definitely-
shart.
I definitely do sneeze sometimes in public, but I have the ability to like stifle it, which just is less.
So this is a power play for
No,
you.
no,
this
it's
is
not.
like
It's
I
not.
can fucking
He's gonna
control
dominate his
nature.
face.
Do you understand?
You're laughing in the face of God, is what you're
exactly.
doing right now.
Oh yeah, you want me to do something that's involuntary? I'll voluntarily not do it.
Have
and
you
then
ever been
remind
scared
myself.
by a sneeze?
Yes.
No, okay.
Yours or someone else's?
That you're not
Yes.
expecting. It
Yes,
happens
my
to me all the
father-in-law.
time.
My father-in-law sounds like a dog barking so loud that you're like, roar!
Oh my God! Yes, that's how my dad sounds.
And it's awesome. I love it because I'm like, God, that's
I call that I call that a
he's
full
not
release.
he's not stifling it at all. So that's for some reason that's got to feel great for him because
Is
he's
he
not
not
even.
stifling it, or is he pushing it out with a yell behind it?
I don't think he's pushing it.
Guys,
He's not faking it. It's
Guys,
like, whoa,
last
it's
night,
so loud.
Last night, after I watched TV with my wife, after we watched TV, she went up to bed, and then I watched more TV.
What were you watching?
Because we just figured out how to do the streaming Netflix thing on our TV.
Phenomenal.
Because we just got a new TV, but we just figured it out. Pretty much not figured out, but I'm getting deft with it. And I watched this Jonestown massacre, like
So fun, something
MSNBC
fun, like a
something
Like a bedtime
Hey,
thing
it's-
to watch.
It's pre
We are pitching, by the way. We are pitching a Jonestown Massacre sitcom. So we'll see what happens when a crazy cousin shows up and outstays his welcome.
So, no, but I feel like there was a moment. I mean, the moment at which just shit went down in this thing. I mean, went down. The people came down there with the camera crew and the congressman, and then like two people slipped him a note and said, "Get us out of here," the night. And then the next day, they confronted Jim Jones, and then all these people started to say, "We want to leave, we want to leave," and then everything happened, and they drank the Kool-Aid, and everyone died, right? But that feeling of like, okay, there's a truck leaving, let's get everyone out of here. That's his father-in-law's sneeze.
Right, it's an
This,
exodus.
we got to get everything out. Just get like, there's a few germs
Yeah.
inside of him. They're like, "Oh, you're going out now? We can get out of here."
And I want you to, I want
Gets
you to know, I totally knew that's where Randy was going with that story. And if you didn't know, then shame on you.
Shame
You're not
on you.
listening close enough.
I like to go so far out in one direction and try and bring it back.
Right. But you also probably know, because you guys are identical twins and you know. You
No,
probably get
I
that
have
a
no
lot.
idea. I had no idea where he was going
I think
with
it's
this.
just like-minded. We had Adam on our show, and we were he was just doing some, I forgot what story we were talking about, but he started to go into something, and we kind of, without ever discussing it ahead of time, saw him going there, and then we all kind of just met there and did it. You know, we don't know him that well. We just know him from doing
Right.
this show
So
and
it's
a
like
couple
a
other
comedy
things.
mind,
Yeah, I
spot
think
mind
it
kind of
was.
thing.
I think
Yes.
it is. So I think we kind of adopt. We ascribe it to more of that than the mysticism of twins, which we kind of like to debunk rather than sort of espouse it.
I am very curious, though, about sort of the logistics of the twin stuff, if that's okay
Please.
for me to
Sure.
ask. I have older brothers who are identical twins.
You do?
Yes, but they live in different states,
Right.
and they don't even look that much alike anymore.
you?
To me,
Right.
yes.
I bet if somebody.
Well, yeah.
Are you amazed when strangers see them together and they're like, "Whoa, you guys are identical"? And
Or
then
do they not
Actually,
even look that much alike
you know what?
anymore?
That doesn't happen that much anymore. It's like if they say, because one of them is more tan than the other, one of them wears his hair differently. Now, actually, as they're getting older,
The Rosen boys?
they are starting to look more alike again. But there's still, I think one of them might even be, I think Josh might be a little bit taller. Even.
Josh is black, right? Josh is
and
black.
there's that as well.
They were born from two fathers.
Yeah.
That's so crazy.
I can't believe your mom.
I know it caused a lot of friction.
Yes. Well,
Between-
I can imagine the kind of friction it would cause.
and chafing as
Yes.
well.
Hey-o.
So yeah, yeah. So anyway, so they have to have. I think they kind of bristled at the idea of being treated as
A unit.
yes, but you guys obviously don't have that, or do you have
We
that?
do. I think
do.
at times it's like we chose to go into this and be like, we're going to be a comedy team, and this is what we're going to do, and we're going to present something different that hopefully you haven't seen before, or look at the comedy team in a, without getting too technical, somewhat of a postmodern way, or in a way that's not has been used. There's no straight man and funny man in this thing because there isn't one in our lives, and this is the most organic way that we can look at it now, taking a step behind and looking at it. But I think that there are moments where, like, you know, it's a little limiting at times.
It's a
But-
double-edged sword. It is. We've
But
said
we
that
do have
before.
families, and that allows us this. We've always,
To
throughout our
retreat.
whole lives.
Yes.
I don't know if your brothers lived in the same room growing up, but
No, they had different rooms.
separate rooms, I think, is a big deal for twins. And
Wait, they had different rooms until my sister was born, and then they had one room.
So
but
here-
they're my half brothers, so they have a
they don't
different
count.
mom. So
They don't count.
That's what I'm saying. No, so they didn't live. They didn't always live with
Lousy
us.
half-breeds. Yeah, well, I do believe that we, in spending that time apart from each other, at least having a place where we could go that was our own throughout our lives.
You can masturbate
But,
in.
yeah, but
Unfettered.
But you know what I think it is? Ooh, sorry, I just kicked you. I feel like
I had it coming.
You did.
Yeah, my probing twin
Did you
questions.
see what she was wearing?
Yeah.
She deserved it.
I just think that it's like we're trying to do something and explore a relationship between two people on stage in our comedy and our podcast that I feel like often gets glossed over pretty quickly.
And what is that
A
relationship?
twin relationship. I think people just are like, there's this like wish fulfillment from outsiders who are like, I wish I had a twin. That'd be so great. Someone to just totally understand me. And
Right.
like, yes, that's cool. And that's like a part of it. But there are also other parts of it that aren't so great. There are people who are twins who are like, I hate the fact that I'm a twin. I don't want to be anywhere near my twin, which is another extreme. People always want to say, is there a good brother and an evil brother? Well, no.
Is there?
Yes. No, there isn't. Of course. We were both good and evil. I mean, every person has good and evil inside of them. So it's like, if we're trying to take a more nuanced approach, which is why we're not more successful as a comedy duo. But I think it's...
But I think it's much more
interesting.
realistic, though.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing is that I know from my brothers, you can say like, oh, they're two individuals. They're very different. But it's like, no, they're not really very different. It's
No.
that when you contrast them, you notice the differences. But I mean, I think those are fictions that people apply to. Like
Right.
you're saying the good and the evil or...
Or how amazing is it that, like, on some level, there are twins who quest to be as different as possible, but then end up doing very similar
Right.
things, or they're trying to escape that truth about themselves, and then they come back to that truth, which again is sort of like, probably what a lot of us are with regards to our parents. You want to not grow up to become your mom and then you end up sort of doing that unknowingly, and that happens a lot.
Because your DNA is wrapped up in that person. I think, it's like DNA, especially if you're identical. The DNA
Right, you
has
have-
split, and so you have that. There are, things that you're predestined to sort of experience and like or dislike or go in a certain direction. I think that has something to do with it, but I don't believe in like crazy ass mysticism or telekinesis or he gets hurt and then the other person. Anytime anybody starts talking like that, I'm like,
They're
bullshit.
full of shit.
You are so full of shit. There's no fucking way that happened. But then I'm like, why am I getting so angry about this?
Why are you getting so angry about
Seriously,
that?
why did you, Ran? Get
I don't know.
some-
I always pull myself back and I'm like, don't get so angry.
You say, chill, bro.
I say relax. I say it's not that big of a deal.
I send him a message
Well-
from my brain. I'm like, chill out.
I got,
Yeah.
and
But I
get
don't
that
move my
message.
mouth. And then
Is
he gets
it because you feel like the expectation is that you have some freakazoid power?
I just think it goes back to the notion that we like to try and think of ourselves as complete people, not, as
Not
two-
one half of
Right, exactly. And, or just like you can just sort of say these people are this sort of a stereotype and that's what it is. But people are so much more complex than that.
Right. Growing up, though, was it like, oh, you're the this one or you're the this one? Or
No.
were there,
Nope.
did you have, like, you were more into this or more into that? Or
I think we were into similar things, and we played sports, which was great because you always had somebody to like throw a ball around with. You always had someone to play tennis with. Now I have two kids that are 5 and 7, and I try and get them to like. I would love nothing more for 25 years from now for them to be doing something together. I think that'd be the coolest thing. Like if my daughters had a radio show or some crazy thing like that. I mean, it'd be amazing. But we try and get them to play together because we were of the same pretty much ability. It's like better than hitting a tennis ball off a wall. You're actually getting competition. You get better. It was an interesting thing. So we could kill lots of hours in a day doing that sort of a thing.
Which is what growing up is about. Just
killing time.
those hours.
You just get through it.
Yeah, it's
Get
like,
through it. That freaking awkward life.
yeah, like writing little hatch marks. I actually used to cross out the days on a calendar. My mom did
Why
that too.
did you do that?
My mom who loves life.
You're becoming your mother.
Did you say
Yes.
like?
No,
did
I
you cross out and say
stopped.
another one down?
Another one bites the dust.
That
yeah,
one, that
thank
one's
God I'll
behind
never
me.
have to do that. Yeah, exactly.
Or did you, as
It was
a
like
child?
life was a giant advent calendar Only the big thing that you open up didn't have chocolate in it. It was just death.
Just sad.
Did you cross off a day and say, as a 7-year-old, one step closer to death?
No.
Here we
no,
go.
I did this so that when I looked at my calendar, I would just know what day it is. It was
Sure.
just an efficiency thing. But then
Right.
in college, a friend of mine got up my ass about how there's nothing beautiful about efficiency and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, Jesus Christ, it's a calendar. But she
Where'd you go to
convinced
school?
me. Pomona College.
Yeah.
Where'd you
Scripps,
guys go?
Pitzer schools?
Yes, it's one of the
Pitts-
Claremont colleges.
Claremont 5. We went to Michigan.
And did you like it? Yeah, I know that you guys were in a fraternity. And I know that you grew up in St. Louis. Is that
Yes,
right?
yeah, that's
okay.
right.
I've done some research.
Thank you.
Yeah, loved it. I mean, Michigan was great. It was so just all these like really interesting, dynamic people. A lot from the state of Michigan. You kind of got the cream of the crop from the state of Michigan, and those people were really interesting. And I don't know. I just dug the school. I felt like you'd go to these great classes with really, really good professors, and it would be big. And then, like all of a sudden, like these little pools of people would formulate afterwards and still talk about what we were just talking about. And I'm like, that's what school is about.
I
You
miss
actually-
that.
Yeah.
Honestly, I
Yes.
miss
a lot of discussion post
being
the
that
discussion.
curious.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like I still am curious, but I miss being around people who want to pick apart and explore things as much.
There was an
Yes.
there was it wasn't people weren't jaded.
Mm-hmm.
There was an excitement about learning that didn't go to the part of fanaticism. It was more
Right.
like, I just want to find out about this, or hey, really, you believe that? Let's talk about this a little bit more. And there was a real push when we were there for like diversity
Mm-hmm.
and sort of to include everybody. And I don't know, I felt like there were, because it was a state school, it wasn't an Ivy League school that,
Then it also had like great sports and like a lot of fun social stuff. So there was a lot like to do. It kind of was in this cool little town. Ann Arbor was a great town in the middle of Michigan, and it just was a fun place. Good food, good restaurants, good everything. It was a great experience.
It's
I
a great
loved it.
experience because you go back there, and we've been back a number of times to perform there, and we have friends that live there who we went to school with who now actually have their families that live there. And you get off the highway, like Highway 23, and you start heading up like a certain road, and you get to a certain point, and it all like comes back to you in a very positive way. It's like a return home
Do
to
you know,
something.
have you read Richard Rousseau? Do you know any of his books? He wrote.
I know that name.
They made movies.
Empire Falls.
Empire
Oh,
Falls.
I'm thinking of Renee Russo. Not
Renee-
really.
Have you read Renee Russo?
She's so good.
She wrote the Thomas Crown Affair. No.
And
Renee Russo was the
Ken-
man who turned into a
Ken-
woman tennis player. No, that was
Oh.
Renee Richards.
Oh,
Renee
that's
Richards.
right.
Renee Rousseau was in
Yeah.
Thomas Crown Affair.
That's
where
right.
She was
Yeah.
also in the
Tin Cup.
She was in Tin Cup, and she was
the precursor to the female character on The Shield, who was also a cop. I feel like she had the
whose
same
Yes.
kids go
faith.
to our kids preschool.
Fantastic.
I have
Catherine Dent.
So Renee Richards, tennis
Yes.
player,
Sure.
2 giant arms. I'm
Two
imagining,
giants, Yeah.
She had a giant forehead.
and that as well.
She had a
When
huge cock. Huge cock.
initially Ron Richards, is that what when he was Victor was?
By the way, could have been Renee Richards.
Both.
That's right.
Both
I
ways.
know. Yeah,
Do you know what
it's
I
like
mean?
a Terry name.
Yeah.
So when I was in New York and one of the lean job times, I was like, I'm just going to look on Craigslist, because I was a writer, and at this point I was freelance. And I was like, I'm just going to look on Craigslist and see what kind of jobs are available here, which is not a good
call.
idea.
Great
You know
call.
what kind of jobs are available on Craigslist?
Something.
Hand jobs.
That's right.
If only that I would have. No, actually, hand jobs can be confusing. But no, it was. Wait, what did we say? It was Renee Richards' son wanted to write a book about his experiences and was looking for someone to help him write.
A ghostwriter.
Why not call
Yeah.
Chaz Bono on that one?
This
Why
was
not?
before then.
This is pre-Chaz Bono.
Yeah, this was when
Right.
it was. Yeah.
Be ahead of the
I know.
curve, for Christ's
So
sake.
anyway, I had a long conversation with Renee Richards' son, and that was it.
What was that conversation like? So for a period of
It was really, he's like, and I'm going to have you sign tons of contracts so that it's very clear, he didn't say tons of contracts, but it was very clear that like if I was going to do it, whoever they hired, it wasn't even mine yet.
Yeah.
Would be paid just for the book, and they could not come afterwards and try to get more money. And I was like,
it was
wow.
a money grab. At least Renee Richards' son wasn't trying to play off his mother/father's name.
Right. There was some whole. Oh, you know what? The book wasn't. I don't even think it was about that. It was like some whole long thing involving drugs, maybe.
It was
I
called the
forget.
Thomas Crown Affair.
It was something that didn't go anywhere for me.
Yes.
I don't know what he is doing these days. I almost said he or she, but it's just he.
A lot like Renee Richards'
Yeah.
penis. Something that didn't go anywhere.
Right.
It just disappeared into the ether.
The abyss.
Wait. Was this kid born from her or born from
Him.
Ron Richards' wife? Like where
Ron Richards.
Was he a product of Renee Richards' semen or
her womb?
Her eggs.
Semen.
Okay.
I think he grew up with a dad who was a tennis player and probably wanted to be a woman but wasn't yet.
Got it.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay. So did you guys consider going to different colleges?
We did actually. We kind of applied. We applied to the same places, and it was more of it was not a big application process. It was like
also because we didn't have a ton of money. Our parents were like, number one, it's expensive to apply to a lot of places. If you want to apply to as many places, you can. But like they were trying to save their money for college because they had to send 2 kids at one time to school, and so they were more
so like pick. They said really pick your best like four or five colleges. Hopefully you'll get into one, and then that's what it is. So we lived in St. Louis. We grew up there, but we were like, all right, okay, Michigan.
We kind of were like, let's just pick the same ones so we can go on the same trips and just make it easier on
right.
the family and just do it.
So Michigan, because we had a cousin who was like 4 months older than us, grew up in Malibu or Palisades out here, and then went there. She was a year ahead of us in school, and she was there at Michigan. We visited her and had a blast. Loved it. Okay, and we said there, Wisconsin, because if you can't get into Michigan, not that Wisconsin's that much worse. It's not, but it just academically at the time in 1990,
fun school, great school,
beautiful
Big Ten.
Campus, Big Ten, whatever.
I've never seen curds up close. Have you?
Cheese curds?
Yeah, I have a
We're
friend
about to go
who
there.
talks all about the slippery, squeaky curds or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
They make some kind of sound or something.
I thought you were talking about
Kurdish refugees.
Iraqi refugees.
Yeah, no, they make some kind of sound.
By the way, if you fry Iraqi refugees,
Delicious.
Unbelievable. Talk about
So fattening, though. You gotta not do that.
I know.
Tailgating, it's the greatest. Just see an Iraqi refugee on a spit. Just
Let me have one of
rotating.
those bratwursts.
Give me one of them curds.
I'll have one of
I'll
those.
take a leg.
Yeah, that's what they call a cheese curd that falls into the bottom of the fryer. They call it a Kurdish refugee.
So we applied there, and then we applied to Penn, and we both got into Penn, which was kind of wonderful. We went to public school, and there was this sort of Jewish parents. We got into an Ivy League school. What are we going to do with it? We went and visited, and I got to be honest with you, a lot of the kids seemed stressed out and not fully happy. And it was in Philly.
That's how I felt. I was going to go to Reed. I thought that's what where I wanted to go until I went there, and everyone there was telling me about their plans for where they're going to go
When they transfer.
Yes, it's super high transfer rate. And then I found Pomona, and people were happy. But back to you guys.
No,
so
but
you looked
that's the truth.
Yeah, and I'm like, if people aren't, this doesn't seem like a happy environment.
You can't describe it. You just go in there and you walk into a dorm and you feel it, and everybody's
people
like
being like competitive over.
We
like,
met some great people. Met great people there, and I feel like we could have had a good time. Or even
Either
if
one
we
of us.
split,
Yeah,
if
yeah.
like one of us went to Penn and the other went to Michigan, we would have had a good time. I really believe that. But I don't know. Michigan had so much more of what we wanted. So we made the decision independently of each other. We sat on our own and we literally talked it over individually with our parents and said, this is what we want. This is what I want out of it. And he probably wanted similar things. And then we were just like, all right, we're going to go here. It's just easier. If you want to come visit us, you just come up. And this is so funny, but this really will sort of give you a window into our parents. And we didn't have a lot of money. That was the thing.
At the time,
I think it was Northwest Airlines was offering a deal to fly from St. Louis to Detroit for $17.
Wow.
This is also when you could like show up to the airport like 5 minutes before your flight and just like walk into the
Right.
flight.
right on in. And we were like, all right, F it. We can be back and forth for $34. I mean, it was unbelievable.
Yeah.
We said, look, if we want to come home, we'll come home. It doesn't matter. It's not going to be like we're that far away. It was in the Midwest, St. Louis. And I think the $17 flight clinched it for us. Is that as
Thank you,
ridiculous as that
Northwest.
sounds? Thank you, Northwest.
No, it
Airlines.
makes sense, though.
I'm so
I
glad.
mean, I don't think they ran
It was
that
great.
like our sophomore, junior, or senior years, but still, as a freshman, it was a great
No,
thing.
but it was also like cool to be at a school, a big school that was far away, that was not filled with people from our growing up.
Yeah,
in high
I
school. We had
think-
to learn about a new experience.
I think growing up,
And we had all different classes, and we made different friends there. We had some similar friends.
which was kind of a bit of a issue because Jay didn't have glasses back then, and we were, we would
So
be.
the glasses, you wear the glasses
I
too.
need them. I need them.
Oh, and you don't?
I don't. My eyesight's perfect.
Get out.
Yeah, that's the way it goes.
That sucks for you. I'm sorry.
It's bad.
I thought maybe this was to distinguish.
No.
Not
Although
not
it is
at
a
all.
wonderful distinguishing
Because
tool.
on your website, Oh, am I reading more into this? So the icon is one has glasses and one doesn't, and then it sort of lines up with the names, and I thought maybe that was a distinguishing thing.
We're lucky that it distinguishes.
Yeah.
That's more we feel like, all right.
And I kind of like it. I mean, I'm weirdly into like that kind of stuff, like
Glasses?
Yeah, I am. It's a cool accessory.
I
And
think
it's
in high school, though, we had a great time and had good friends and whatnot, but it wasn't in a good way. I think if you're peaking in high school, it's not a good thing.
I agree so much, and yet I'm totally okay with the fact that I loved college.
Yeah.
college is a.
No, I agree. I'm suspicious of people for whom high school was the best 4 years of their life.
You know why? Especially for someone who's funny. And I'm gonna say, if you're funny, then you're immediately into, and if you're into like funny, weird films and weird stuff, then you're immediately different than a lot of people in your high school, especially if you grew up in St. Louis. Where
well, also there's in comedy, and is what you're trying to do right now with your podcast, as we are trying to do with ours. There's a real premium on being original and being an individual and standing out amongst everybody.
That's the opposite of high school.
That's what you don't want in high school. High school is all about fitting in and being part of a clique and being part of a group. And that's not to say we didn't have our friends and whatnot, but we didn't have like we had a few friends that we really loved, and then we were friends with lots of people individually and together, had a lot of different friends. It was not a type of time where we were bullied or treated like crap, although we were when we were younger, but that's just the way people treated younger freshmen and whatnot. But we weren't like, it wasn't a traumatic experience, but it just wasn't the fulfilled experience where you felt like,
I remember constantly feeling like in high school, I'm like, I can't wait till I get a little older and people can appreciate what we're trying to do here. It's almost like you were like doing something.
And you
for an
weren't
audience.
even a comedy act yet at that point, though.
We
Did you just mean in life? Oh,
We
you
did
did
comedy
in high school.
Yeah, but just sensibility.
Yeah.
Like, it's so funny because like in high school, like, girls like the dumb dudes who are good looking and whatever. That also happens in life. But like, if you're a dude who's trying to be nice and funny and like that's your angle, that's your game. If your game is like, I'm going to be funny and a little quirky and original and I'll be really nice to you, that makes you everyone's friend in high school. That does not make you get the ladies.
Right.
So it was sort of like I was excited for like another place where
that would be appreciated.
Have you come into your own yet?
No, that'll happen hopefully in my 50s. No,
I think comedy provides that opportunity to do that in a way that we'd never experienced. I mean, the fact that we create things and people enjoy it, you go out on, and especially with the podcast too, you go out on the road and people come to your shows and they're appreciative of all the content that you've given them and the body of work that you've done, which now we've luckily been in this business since really doing stuff since like 96. So a long time, 16 years.
When was Cheap Seats? And was that sort of the big...
Cheap Seats was 2003 to 2000. We started in 2002 and then it went to 2006. They still run it on the air, but new episodes were done in 2006. We did a show on MTV called Apartment 2F back in 97. It was us and Zach, and Michael Showalter, and Colbert was on the first episode, and Polar, and I mean, just it was really super fun. Great show done in New York and kind of captured the excitement of the time there. Only lasted one season, which was a bummer, but it got us kind of on the national stage. But, I mean...
And what was that show about?
It was like a sitcom that had short films, stand-up, and sketches woven into the storylines. It wound up being more sitcom-y than sort of like it got developed into that direction.
And we were too young to know not to. Like, we did a pilot, which was so much fun. JB Smoove did stand up in the pilot. Polar and the UCB guys, Ian and Matt, those guys were just so great. They did a sketch within the show, and we did bits and we did our stuff, and it was more of like a variety show taking place in an apartment, which I think that's a great idea. Now, the 30, 35, 40-year-old me goes like, that's a cooler idea than doing just a sitcom, but then they wanted to develop it that way, and we just weren't old enough to know and strong enough to be like, don't do that. That you have a great thing here. You picked up this show. Don't give this show.
It also wasn't our idea. I mean, we kind of adopted it, and over time it became our thing, but like we didn't bring it in as this thing we were doing on stage somewhere or on the radio somewhere. We didn't bring it in.
How did it get
You know,
It was great. It was kind of a crazy story. I think it was originally for two other people: Sam Cedar, who's hilarious,
Air America,
Yep,
formerly.
and John Benjamin.
John Benjamin, who's just
has a van.
John
Yes.
Benjamin's van,
So
John Benjamin
talented.
from Archer, and John Benjamin from Bob's Burgers, and John Benjamin from every home
Dr.
movies,
Katz, home
Dr.
movies,
Katz,
everything.
Super talented, so funny, and I think those guys were doing some stuff together, and I guess MTV maybe offered it to them, but they didn't really like it, or they had other things going on, and they were like, nah,
I think they were on the downward curve of doing stuff for MTV. Like, it was a period of time where they're like, we don't need to do this anymore. And then it was offered to us, and we were like, oh, shit, yeah, we'll take it right now.
because we were 24. We were like, yeah, this is a great opportunity.
But we were
Let's do
too
this.
young, and it didn't come out the way we wanted it to. Although there were some really fun and funny moments on it, and great people on it. David Wayne did a short film on there with Amanda
Love
Peet.
him. Oh, wow.
It was just a crazy. When you look back on it, the talent of the people involved, it was super fun and super cool.
And we did some funny things that, like, if those existed in other sitcoms, and if we had a larger staff and ability to pull it off, and if we were better actors, it would have been really great. But I feel like if we would do the show now, it would be what actually happened for us is we said, oh, I wish when we were older, we would have an opportunity to do this type of show again. And then we got Cheap Seats, which kind of became what that could have been, but on a much smaller scale because we just didn't have the support staff. But that show was us watching old weird sporting events and making jokes, which was super fun. But then woven around that were some
Sketches and
bits.
storylines and runners, and John Glazer started writing on it with us, and Patrick Borelli, like really good people. And then we involved everyone in New York. I mean, the crazy thing was we moved out to L.A., and then we got this show in New York. So we moved out to L.A. in 99, and then got this show in New York in 2002, 2003, and we did it for 3 years.
Did you go back, or were you bi-coastal?
back and forth?
We would
Just-
fly back there, and they would put us up like for a week every 5 weeks, and it was amazing because we're stand-ups. We would be there working during the day, and then we'd go do stand-up at all the cool.
It just
clubs
kept us
and
connected.
shows.
And then because we were doing stand up there, we were connected with the comedy community, and we would just be like, at a show, hey, Nick Kroll, who we just met there, we got this thing tomorrow. Do you want to play an Elvis Gerback impersonator? A guy who just only looks like him when you've got the helmet on, but you show up on the set and you don't have your helmet there. So you just don't look anything like him, and and he was like, sure. I mean, we had just met him. Like we'd heard about him, heard about the Bar Mitzvah book, and we were like, dude, we should be old camp friends. Formed this relationship and friendship that started there, and then later we worked with him on many other things. But the point
Or
is,
Eugene Merman. Like, we'd be like, Eugene Merman, hey, do you want to be the voice of a hot dog? Yes, of course. And it was great.
comes in. So again, you see him out at night and then bring him in the next day. And there was just this sort of, and you know, again, we were away from home. We both of us were married at the time, I believe.
Yeah.
And I had a baby. I mean, my first daughter was born at the tail end of it. So to go to New York, there was this like excitement, and you're out, you're on your own, it's late at night. You know what I mean? There was like a certain freedom and funness to it as well. Not that being a parent and being a husband is not fun or
It's
freeing.
really freeing and fun.
It's about as
That's
much freedom
so
as
much
you can
Yeah,
have.
yeah.
But no, but it was tied up with this.
That's that. Like, anytime like someone says like the Iraqis hate us for our freedom, they're not talking about people who are parents of little kids.
No, they're not. Because if they hung with that, they would be
an
like,
hour.
I'm so sorry.
I did not know. I had
Why
no
did
idea.
you guys move to LA?
I think we just realized at the point after we did the MTV show and it got canceled, we made a deal. We went into Aspen, made a deal right before Aspen to develop a show with NBC and Warner Brothers that ultimately didn't go. But we were flying out here from New York to LA to develop the show. We'd come out once a month, perform at Largo. We started performing at Largo. We started really getting into the scene that was out here in the late 90s. And we thought, all right, if we're going to do it, now's the time to do it. We don't have anything in New York, even though we do 10, 12 sets of comedy a week in New York.
Yeah,
and
New
it
York
great.
was just amazing for that in the late
All
90s.
these shows, and then you do all the clubs. Like we'd get like 4 spots on a Saturday night, which, by the way, wasn't a ton. There were other people like Attell and, you know, people who are Greg Rogel and like all these people would like go and do
like
10
11 shows. in one
11
night.
shows in one night, and you'd have to time it out. You go do stand-up New York and then take a subway and down and do Gotham and then go up and do the comic strip and then come back across and take
Do
a
stand
bus
up
across.
New York and then do Gotham and
The
then
late
finish.
show, and then you do all
Right.
the late shows, and it was like you'd see the same people, and it was a real nice community, and it was great, and you got good by doing so many sets.
I mean,
there.
those are some amazing nights where you do your set and it went well or not. I mean, it's a New York crowd, so like you kind of had to like pummel them from the second you got on stage and then walk off. And then you'd have this like 20 or 15 to 20 minute period to sort of rehash that whole set again as you're on the subway going to the next set, and then you get to do it again right away in front
Different
of a crowd.
audience. You walk into a whole different room, and it's just a whole different setup.
You can't help but get good. If you're in those clubs, you just get better.
I actually had a somewhat of a similar realization when I started doing this show, because before that, a lot of my performing was, at most like once a week, or it was just like, come on. I did more than a lot of TV stuff. So it's like, if you're good, they'll have you back soon, but it's not a set thing. So if I was unsure about how it went, I had this sort of awful feeling of like, God, when they get in touch to bring me on again, then I'll know it went okay, or I'll never hear again, and now I just want to die.
Bad feeling.
Versus
to
doing this
leave
show,
on.
knowing like, well, no matter what, there's another show tomorrow.
Right. You just clean it up and go and then move on to the next thing. And there's something sweet and beautiful about that. But we were like, look, we got to come out to LA to do it. If we're gonna do it, got to come out here, and this is the place you got to do it. And this is where there was a great thriving comedy scene out here that we kind of got plugged into a little bit, and we thought, all right, we could do this out here if we wanted to. It was definitely hard. The first year was super hard. Missed New York a lot.
You spend the whole first year going, God, I got to drive to this thing.
Yes.
I got to go to this place. I got to do this.
You try and understand it, and LA is just
You
like
try to look at it through your New York glasses, and then you go, oh, okay, I need to stop.
Well, I was in New York for a little over 8 years, and then I came out here, and I ended up moving to a place in Hollywood because I think somehow it like seemed like
New York-y.
I was looking at it. Yeah, exactly. I was comparing everything to New York, and then I'm like, oh no, I should have gone to Toluca Lake because that's the Brooklyn of or whatever. And like, I was wrong about everything, and now I'm moving soon. Thank God.
Well, I do think you got it. It's a good. That's a good lesson that you got to just sort of make a break and make your own thing with LA. It's got to be its own sort of thing for you.
But I have that same thing too, where there's certain aspects of it I really miss, just the way it looks. I mean,
New
I
York?
definitely, Well, I lived in Brooklyn at the end.
Yeah.
And I
And
just
Brooklyn
miss.
just keeps getting
it's
cooler.
So, yeah.
It keeps getting cooler.
And it's so quaint and cute.
Yeah,
and
it is.
There's
And
not any of that here.
No, there's
not, but there are areas out here that
Yeah.
are great that kind of remind you of that feeling. Like the feeling I get in Brooklyn is I live in Silver Lake. There's a feeling in Silver Lake that is similar to it. Now, it may not look like that, and the streets may not be like that, and it's not like you can walk out and you go into like
Right.
27 cafes and no. But there is a sense and a feeling that something artistic is happening there, and it's just alive in a way that it makes you happy. In that, if you dig that sort of stuff, it definitely makes you.
Yeah, we were
happy.
definitely in New York before Brooklyn was like a place to be for young
Like
people.
I remember when Williamsburg was still like a new thing. We had one friend who lived out there, and it was sort of like, whoa.
You were
Our friend
like out
Alison
of-
Castillo lived out there, and she had like a comic, very funny, and she was like, she remember had a party out there, and I just remember
We're like, where are you guys going for a party? We're going into Brooklyn for a party. People are like, what?
Yeah.
what are you doing?
It's
How?
dangerous.
How are you and we didn't have cell phones back then. They were like, call me on a payphone and make sure that you made it. I was
Yeah.
like, oh God. it's
Yeah,
good.
we went
Do
out
they
there.
have payphones in Brooklyn?
I don't know. I don't know.
Now you see a show like Girls, which again
Yeah.
has nothing to do with us, but it makes me want to go back and be 25 and move in Brooklyn.
I know.
that vibe.
I'm not even a girl and I love it.
So
Makes me want to have body issues.
it sounds like. I hope one day you can. It
I
sounds
do
like,
have body issues.
You're talking two
do
guys
you
drinking
really?
Diet
I
Cokes.
think so. I think so.
Wait, wouldn't you know if you do?
I
No,
do.
you
What are
I
your
don't-
issues?
Eating. Here's the thing. I have no vice. I don't smoke. I don't really drink super hard. Not a lot of drugs per se.
Food is like the Jew drug, right?
Yeah,
Food is
pretty
a
much.
Jew drug.
Well, because we're destined to
Also,
be,
when I'm writing,
short and
or
overweight.
do you feel this way? Like when you're creative, to like you just the act of putting food in your mouth stimulates your brain. I know there's like maybe not a connection, but like to me, I
I
can't.
find the act of putting food in my mouth is sort of a relief from the. I'm trying to think of something.
I feel
Like,
like it's
it
the
sort of
reward.
breaks it up.
I feel like it's the reward for
Yeah.
like anything well done.
Good idea. Get a piece.
I
of
should be
get some
eating
pretzels.
something that's horrible.
Get some
for me.
pretzels.
We just came up with a great joke. I need to really
Let's
stuff this
come on.
in.
Good joke equals let's fuck that body up.
Earned it.
Right. Do you guys weigh the same?
No. Definitely.
I don't know. I don't even know anyways.
I don't think so. I'm less than him. I think.
Well, we do
Okay.
have our weekly weigh-ins.
yes. Weekly weigh-in in
Like our Weight
at the
Watchers.
MGM in Vegas. We weigh in every week.
Weigh in every week.
Of,
Does
2,000
money
people.
change hands?
It's a press
is.
conference of sorts.
Yes.
When did you guys decide you wanted to do comedy?
Early.
Young teens.
Yeah, we were like super fans of comedy.
We were comedy nerds before there were really comedy nerds. I mean, like watched.
I'm sure
all,
there were comedy nerds.
I mean, before there were.
Before it was
like
a thing.
A thing
Right.
to be that.
We just were nerdy, and the thing was, we learned all these people's stand-up acts. Like even just, and now I think about it, like now we're peers with all the people who back in the day. It's like we're part of that scene now, but back in the day, we looked at those people like, oh, what a great joke, and this.
I just
so
remember
funny.
like a guy like Kenny Rogerson. That's a guy who probably a lot of people don't know. Like if you talk to most people from the '80s, do you know this guy? No, he was a big comic from Boston, but he kind of didn't have a Boston feel. He almost had like a Southern feel to him. But he did this book. I remember on a special, he did a joke about like someone was busted for.
He was busted for trying to smuggle books.
He was busted for trying to smuggle books into Kentucky, but he got off on a technicality because no one could actually prove that they were books. Phenomenal joke, great twist, like joke at the beginning, joke again later that you didn't see coming, two powerful like knocks and jabs at people who aren't smart. It was just this like power-packed thing that I remember going, that's brilliant, that's great, and nobody knows that just happened. No one in our sphere, no one in our
How
world.
did you encounter him?
Just on
Watched
cable. We on I think our dad is pretty funny, but not certainly knowledgeable about comedy.
What does he do?
He was no longer alive, which is a bummer, but he owned his own business for years, was a salesman, and kind of does what we do, pitches himself and pitched himself.
And sold a lot of stuff based on just being a really sweet, gregarious, awesome guy, like in gaining people's trust and like on a lot of levels, just being really great.
He sold alteration supplies, and like so anytime you get any
Like the-
clothing
like the
tailored,
little
needles,
chalk or
thread,
soap or whatever they
all
use?
all of it.
So
Needles,
he-
thread,
so-
chalk,
Wow.
buttons. So
And he would go to like towns and he would,
Well, by the way, he didn't make it. It's not like he made better buttons than someone else.
Right.
He had the same stuff that you get from everyone else, and he was they
his
lived in St.
personality.
Louis.
the difference was him. He's
There are
like, I'll
five
take care of you.
companies that exactly. There are 5 companies that sell the exact same shit. So why are you going to go with this person other than that person?
Because the
It was-
guy calls up and says, I need 3 things a button. Before you do that, my dad's going to tell him 3 stupid jokes, and he's going to rap about his kids, and he's going to just connect, or the woman, and see he remembered everybody's names. He was like, so he was that kind of person who people just loved to talk to. And so
not like a book smartish dude, but a guy who like just excelled in that environment and loved being and this is what I can relate to now. Just he loved being the king of his castle. Like I don't know if we could do anything else. Like we both got into law school and we're almost ready to go to law school, and we were just like, I can't do this because that's what everybody did in '94,
Yeah.
pre-internet. It's like, what are you going to do? You're a Jew. You have a English degree or a history degree or whatever, political science, what are you going to do? And then you're like, well, let's go to law school. And we were ready to go, like so many of our friends did, who now most of them are out of law. They're like, why the fuck did I do that and spend $180,000 on an education that I had to pay off? Thank God we didn't go down that road. But I think, for our dad, he was just like, I'm going to do this thing and be the head of it and not have to answer to anybody. He loved that idea of not having to answer to anybody and kind of run it his own way.
But he like taught us from an early age, I feel like, just by showing that like being funny is a great way to connect with people. And so we always kind of appreciated comedy. I remember we used to drive on Saturday mornings. There was a show in St. Louis on KMOX, which is like their big, they do all the Cardinals games. It's like sort of like the big radio
AM
station,
flagship station.
And they used to have a show, this guy Jack Carney in the morning, his son, who we are now friends with, John Carney, is a great radio broadcaster. And he used to do a show called the Saturday Morning Comedy Show. And they just would play old clips of comedy like Abbott and Costello and
Alan Sherman, Hello
songs.
Mutta.
Yeah, all those old songs, and like, I mean, they probably played like Jackie Gleason, like Honeymooners clips and old stuff. It was mainly old comedy from like the Figure Show of Shows and that kind of stuff. And so we would listen to that and hear that as he would drive us around on a Saturday morning. That was what was on in the car, and you hear people laughing, and you hear some funny things that maybe you don't understand. You see your dad laughing, and you start to be like, "Oh, this is."
And I'll
cool.
never forget this when Airplane came out. Our uncle who lived we had another uncle, my dad's brother. Okay, my mom's brother's daughter went to Michigan with us. She's the one who lived in the Palisades.
Right.
But my dad's younger brother, both of his brothers actually lived out in Los Angeles. One lived in Woodland Hills, the other one lived in Orange County in Anaheim. And he worked for an appliance store, Phil and Jim's, which is a major appliance store in Southern California.
Oh, I know Phil. Gary and I are both from Orange County.
Okay,
Phil
so
and
you know
Jim's.
Phil and Jim's.
Of
So
course.
Uncle Bob worked for Phil and Jim's.
Phil and
Phil and
Jim's.
Jim's.
They were in those commercials.
Oh,
They're
really?
Kids,
The
like-
kids are in those commercials, my cousins. And so they So he sent us out a Hitachi VCR that was...
Which, by the way, I've still never heard of Hitachi.
Never heard of Hitachi ever. And the only thing about it was the remote was connected with a wire.
Oh,
and it
yeah.
didn't reach our couch where it was. So the remote
That's why they
was
call it Hitachi, because everything's attached to the goddamn thing.
like you couldn't even... But
That's like the shitty Barbie dream car.
Yes.
The one that I had, the Barbie sports
I don't know
car.
what that is, but yes.
There was one car on a remote, and then there was the Barbie sports car. And I didn't even like Barbies or cars, but I didn't.
You
And
gotta
I
get
also
it.
didn't like this toy. It was
You
a
gotta
gift.
get it,
But
yeah.
you had to walk behind it like 10 feet with the
And what?
remote because it was attached by a wire.
That's the worst.
The fuck is that?
The worst.
Nothing. It's terrible.
So anyway, they sent us that, and then I remember our parents got Airplane, the movie, when it came out. Or shortly after, when it came out on video. I guess it was like 1980 or something, or 81, whatever. We were like 8 or 9. They had people over at our house to watch
A viewing party.
Yeah.
a viewing party
Yes.
for Airplane, which we never did for any other movie. We never did that for any other movie. It just made it so important. And then here was this movie that was the funniest fucking movie we've ever seen. Like, and I would say still to this day, there are things in that movie that just make me laugh. I've seen it a million times. I can do every line to that movie. And we just thought to ourselves, oh, shit, this is important. And we're 9. So I think that
I think we were
got
a
us
little
thinking.
older. I think we might have been like 10 or 11.
We were 10, but we were like, oh, this is important. This is like, look at what everybody's laughing, and it's just like this amazing to create this thing that
Blazing Saddles. I remember when Blazing Saddles was like a big thing that like everyone started to like talk about and watch, and that was something that was really important. And we saw Mel Brooks as like Young Frankenstein. But when those two movies, it was like Airplane, Young Frankenstein, and Blazing Saddles. That triumvirate of movies kind of like really held so much weight in our family and in our world, and it was like, oh, this is really like the highest level. If you can make the room laugh, that's a big deal.
I think that opened the door for us to be like, oh, we should study comedians. And then most people weren't at the time. It wasn't like Comedy Central existed. This is 10 years before Comedy Central. And so most people didn't know Kenny Rogerson or any of these other people, or Bob Nelson or, Robert Townsend. We'd watch the
Jake Johansson.
the young comedian special on Rodney Dangerfield, and we'd learn like Seinfeld's 5-minute act from that show. And we'd do it. Our parents' friends.
The bit about his bit about the shower stuff, like the hair on the wall that you can't come down, you have to go to the thing to get a pool of water and throw it on the hair, and it hangs on, it doesn't want to go down, like all that stuff, because nobody was really doing that type of
Right.
observational humor on the national level that like we would see if we weren't going to comedy clubs, so we just weren't in the comedy scene at all. And so when you see that and it's suddenly like connecting, and you're like, I mean, we love Seinfeld. Seinfeld did a special. Did a second HBO, or like his full HBO special with like the cereals, and like there was like sketches that were taking place in that supermarket. And I remember we were like, this is the funniest guy out there. We were like, how does he literally late 80s, we're like, how does he not have a TV show? How does he not like
I remember his special came out and we couldn't wait, like the commercials leading up to, we couldn't wait for it.
We saw him in St. Louis. We waited, like camped out for tickets to see him in St. Louis, and we were like, this guy is the best. And we saw him at like a 1,000 seat, and they might even like 800 seat theater, and he blew us away. And we were like, it's such a shame that he's not.
Do you
people
still-
don't-
Such a shame is correct. Do I still feel that
I
way
feel
about
so
Do you
Seinfeld?
still
I do
enjoy
feel that.
comedy in
I
that
still feel
pure
that
way?
Seinfeld may make it at some point.
He'll get a shot.
I don't know.
Well, guys, the marriage ref is, doing
I
all right.
love Tom Papa.
But yeah, no. Do we still enjoy comedy that way?
Yes.
Yes.
Because I talk to people for whom seeing stand-up in clubs, people who are stand-ups, it's like that is work to them because their brain is just doing all sorts of
I get
calculus
that.
while they're watching.
I get it.
Totally get
I get
that.
it. And sometimes comedy can be very mathematical as you start to say, like, oh, I got to come up with a joke for this, or here's the premise and here's the thing, and I got to get from A to B.
And it's also very hard to be like to watch someone who's younger than you just like destroying and
Yeah.
like really doing so well, and you're like, oh, are we too old? Are we out of the game? What are we doing here? Or to watch somebody who's just somehow figuring it out in a way that you're not. I mean, it's very easy to watch other comics and feel super self-conscious about your own comedy. It's also super fun, if we've been to festivals where we're around a bunch of other comedians, like we went to Sketchfest in San Francisco last year, and like, that was ridiculous. It was so fun to watch our
in a
friends
car,
do stuff.
like, first of all, again, as parents, all we do the regular day is take care of people.
Well, I realized I am the assistant in Swimming with Sharks. That's who I am. He's like, I want this in this bowl. And you're like, fuck, this bowl's not. It's in the dishwasher. Well, get it. I'm like, when did my son become Kevin Spacey? I don't understand what's going on right now.
Ambiguously gay.
He's like, just get it. I'm like, well, no. And so then it's one of those.
You're constantly doing for you're strapping people in.
Right.
You're taking them places. You're walking.
So you
places.
have 2 daughters.
Yeah.
I have one son.
Okay.
It's a lot of work. You're just like you're constantly working for somebody else. And then you go on to a festival and they're like, your car's downstairs and waiting for you. There'll be someone to take you to this place and go here.
And there'll be a tray of food for you guys in the back. I mean, that's what happens when you go and you do stand up at clubs. People like take care of you, and the car picks you up at the airport. And it is. I feel like we need that in our lives every once in a while, just to remind ourselves, like, oh yeah, we've achieved some things, and it's nice to have people supporting you and being a part of like a larger.
I think
thing.
we really appreciate it when it does happen. You really appreciate it. So you get into a car with all these other comics like Rich Fulcher and Tig Notaro and Kyle Dunnigan, and you're in there driving to the venue from the hotel, and
Sounds
literally
so fun.
dying, like doing the worst
Carson impressions.
everybody, like Tig's Carson
And
impression.
Tig hates it, and he loves it, and so that eggs him on, and this makes this guy do this, and these guys do that, and all of a sudden there's an inside joke, and everyone's cracking up, and then you show up at the venue, and then
and your sides hurt because you're laughing so hard,
and then
you're
you
like,
watch your friends on stage just destroy, and you feel so good, and you can't wait to get on stage and do what you do so that they laugh at what
You
you're
know
doing.
what it is? I think because being part of in comedy in many ways is very individual. Other than although when we do it, we're part of something. We're part of this two-man thing.
Do you ever do stand up separately?
We have done
We have
some
done
performance
stuff separately. I think it's more fun for us to do it together. We haven't fully. Once it gets tired, this gets tired for us. We'll stop. We will definitely stop and not do it, and we won't beat a dead horse. That's what we both sort of agreed. But I feel like there's more things for us to explore in this relationship, and we haven't fully done it the way we want to do it. And so there's more time for us to do this. But I think for most people it's very individual. But you get around comics, especially when you go to like the Montreal Comedy Festival or somewhere else.
which we just were at, and that was
it's
phenomenal.
It's like
There's this moment where everyone finishes your shows, and this is you're talking about like 100 to 150 comedians, most of whom you know, and people you're friends with and you're excited to see, who you never get to see. When you're on the road, you go to your place, and
Right.
you're the comic in that city. You're the person who's doing it that night. And so to come to another town, another country, Montreal, it's so beautiful. Canada is so great. That town is so beautiful. And then to do shows, and then everyone show up. Like the shows are like incidental. It's the hanging out afterwards.
you feel like you're part of a gang. You feel like you're like, this is why Bruce Springsteen had the E Street Band. You know what I mean? It's like they're part of something that then goes out and kicks ass, and then you come back, and I don't know. There's just this like camaraderie and sort of like we're part of something. We're part of a group.
It's interesting that you guys are, if I could put words in your mouth, yearning for community.
When we are part, we
Yes.
ourselves are a community.
Yeah.
I think we've always done that.
Yep. I've always wanted more and love being a part of something larger. And I always look, stand-up comedy and, podcasting, creating content for people to enjoy, number one, means you're risking something. You're putting yourself out there for people to shit on it
Yeah.
and to love it.
By the way, easier to shit on something than it is to build something.
So much easier. And I've talked about this on so many things. I hate the Twitter culture example of somebody answering somebody else's question about whether or not they think you're funny by including your
know.
name in their
Yes.
response of hatred. It's
Yeah,
like,
why
just
do
tell
that?
Tell that person they suck. Why
Yeah.
do you?
It's on par with letting someone know you're unfollowing them.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't need to.
That's
You don't
right.
need to do that.
Just do it.
Just fucking go do it.
Just don't vote.
You're you're clearly trying to send a message
poke at someone, yeah.
to these people that you hate their stuff. Now, obviously, if everyone loves your stuff, then you're shitty. I mean, no one's going
But
to
happy.
Yeah,
You're
happy.
rich, but you're like saying to yourself, maybe I should be out on the limb a little bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're not. I mean, you should have
Right.
people
You're not
hate.
pushing any boundary.
Right.
We had Adam on our show, on our podcast, and there were I'm not even joking, we normally get about 10, 15 comments on our comment page about thing. He is a controversial person.
Yeah.
There were
He's become more so of late.
47 comments for that one thing, and it's not even a week, and it's
Yeah.
so many comments on the thing. And look, I have to say, in my mind, I don't really give a shit because I feel like he's funny to me, and we enjoy him, and we
don't
love
have to
doing-
agree with everything
We
he
don't have to agree
says.
with everything he says. We don't have to agree with everything our fans say at certain times. And not to say that, by the way, there are people who liked it and people who didn't, and people who liked certain things and didn't. So it was
And
very mixed.
also, I will say this: there have been times where our fans have been like, I wish you guys would stop doing this, or I wish you guys kept doing this, you stopped doing that. And we've sat down and talked about it. And we're like, why did we stop doing that? That's such a great call. Why did we stop doing that? Let's do that again. Or why?
So it's just not. It's not to not be listened to at all. I actually think people who with constructive criticism, and I wish there was more, if we can do anything in our lives, it would be to engender re-energize the idea of debate happening, so that like people aren't just like, you're a faggot, you're an asshole.
Yeah,
fuck
it gets
you,
to
fuck
that
you.
level so quickly.
so quickly that there's
what happened to like, hey, I don't think look, if someone's like, I don't think these guys are funny because of X, Y, and Z, all right. You don't like this, and you know what? Maybe that hurts our feelings. Maybe it exposes a limitation in what we do, and maybe it shows us that, hey, we'll never get to be this type of comic, and I wish that person liked us, but they don't. Or maybe it would just be like, well, you don't fucking get it. You just explained, you just showed how you don't get it. So it could go either way, but I'd rather hear that than fuck those faggots,
Right.
or those, I hope they die of AIDS, or whatever stuff, which people tweet, and you're like, are you serious?
Or I'll put on comment pages. I mean, the comment pages are really...
So it's the worst of the worst.
The
Yeah, it's
worst,
just
the
the
worst,
bottom
because it's
feeders.
anonymous people just like
Right.
taking pot shots from like the freedom and the sort of safety of their own anonymity.
So you said that you were like, not to get too lofty, but or too technical, but you feel like there's something postmodern in what you're doing because there's not a straight man.
Right.
Can you just say a little more about that? Like, do you feel in your act that you guys play the same type of role?
No, I think what we do is we view ourselves as like we have these ideas that are like stand-up premises, that like one person could have this stand-up premise. But the way we're going to show you how it gets played out, what we've learned how to do a little bit more is to involve more of our acting. And so act out a scene. So like if we have a bit about, which we do in our comedy, about how, you know, reading stories to your kids is a wonderful thing, and it's actually the thing that you look forward to before you have kids, and then you have them, and it's even more beautiful than the thing it is. But then, unless they pick a shitty story, and then it's like it's worse than being
worst
stuck in
thing-
a Chilean mine.
Yeah,
you know what I
at
mean?
least
It's
those
like
people can die or get
you're
sick or
sucked
get
in this
rescued.
thing, and people don't care, and you're in it for weeks. So. You know, my kids really liked fairy tales. Again, this is a true story. I'm like, why do you like this shit? It's so poorly written. And then you're like, how did these stories stand the test of time and blah, blah, blah. So we go into this whole thing about that, and we go into a whole thing about Snow White being just the worst third act ever, and it's just they live happily ever after. Really not true, especially if you're married and they're supposed to get married. I think marriage is just a major compromise, even though I'm in it and I love my wife. It's great, but I don't know how happily ever after can exist anywhere. It's
No,
just,
you're choosing, when you choose to be married, you're choosing not necessarily to be happy, but to like share a life with somebody. Like that's what you're choosing. You're
like
choosing.
we jokingly say, you may learn to live with your partner's idiosyncrasies and then make a very difficult peace with that.
You may like go to years of therapy and then come to understand what hole inside of you that person filled and make a difficult peace with that.
For 18 years while your kids are in college, in the house, like you'll live in an emotional desert between you and your partner. And then when they go off to school, want to smother your partner with a pillow while she's watching Top Chef Masters. And then make peace with that. But you're never going to live happily ever after. And so you get to, especially the way Snow White and her husband met
when you think
in
about how they
weird
met.
circumstances.
Under which they met.
So that's the premise. A regular stand-up would maybe continue on that line. But for us, what we say is, okay, so what we're going to do now, just because we can, and there's two of us here, we're going to just do in our minds, this is what we would imagine a conversation between Snow White and her husband 8 months after they've been married at the breakfast table.
As she's starting to figure out
Or trying to understand, how did you meet me? And like, what is the origin of this whole thing? And
because, you know, like there's that moment in every relationship where the person like goes back and rewinds to like 5 minutes right before that person was in their life. And you're like, how did we come together? And so so we end up playing out a whole scene, which has been really fun to do on stand-up stages because
it's so unexpected, and you literally get into the scene where he's the Prince Charming and I'm Snow White, and it's really a relationship between a husband and a wife that are trying to figure out who
and
they
they're
are.
already on each other's nerves, and it's breakfast, and he's making breakfast, and he's resentful that he's cooking for her, and she's trying to dance around the idea of maybe
I want to have the type of relationship where we can talk about these things.
But
and
I
he's
need
like,
to know if you're a necrophiliac because that's going to change like what I feel like I can give you because I'm not.
What is
into,
this
like,
going to be? And again, it supports our theory that like you can't live happily ever after unless these guys don't explore any of this stuff.
So one stand-up who's by himself might go like, marriage is a compromise, and talk about how marriage is a compromise. We choose to take this example, explore this notion, and play out a scene.
Here's another example. And this is, again, because material's material, and you go from what you know. And we have kids. And look, I have kids that almost around the same age as like Louis C.K.'s kids. And you're like, oh, fuck, I don't want to do material that he's doing. And, again, we're such huge fans of his and whatnot. But we've been doing a joke that was on our CD for a long time about a whole bit about writing jokes with, again, it's similar, writing jokes with my 7-year-old daughter, and just how there are a lot of restrictions on that process. You can't be that funny, you can't be that edgy, you can't be that dirty. It's like writing for Leno. I mean, it's like these sort of like, there are all these restrictions. And so the way we sort of played it out is because there's two of us, again, I do a joke that, and Jay gets mad at me when I write jokes.
And the heart of that is how the bit got started was he told me that he was doing that with his daughter, and I'm like, well, that sucks, because here we are, like, banging our head against the wall, trying to, like, get blood from a stone as we're trying to create new material. That's what it feels like sometimes when it's not flowing. Like, some weekends you just come up with 5 new minutes of material, and then it's a magical weekend. It's like, listen to Bob Dylan. But when Bob Dylan talks about the time in the 60s when, like, he was writing a ton of crazy shit, he would, like, watch that documentary, No Direction Home. Like, you even hear what other people say about him. Like, he would sit down at a typewriter at like an 8 at night, and then at 8 in the morning he would have written like a Rolling Stone. Like, no shit, like 12 verses, and then 8 other verses that got lopped off from the song. It just flows through you. You can't predict when you're going to sit down and write comedy. You can't force yourself to write new comedy ever. And so, I get mad at Randy when he writes these, like, when he's like writing material with his daughter, because it's so restricted that we can never do those jokes in our act, and he's wasting the comedy writing juice from his brain.
So I'm like, well, no. Let's try and use it. Let's try and use it. So I'll do a joke that I did with my daughter, and then we wrote together.
And the bit was then I would do a joke.
Try and take that joke and doctor it up so that we could use it. So we're not just going to show you the doctored up version. We're going to show you the first version, and then we'll show you where it goes. So one of the jokes that I wrote with her, which was a real joke that we wrote, why was the bagel standing outside of his house crying?
Why was the bagel standing outside?
Because someone had changed all his locks. Right? It's so good for Leno. But anyway, and then Jason's like, all right, I'll try and doctor that out.
So why was the bagel standing outside of his house crying?
Why was the bagel standing outside of his house crying?
Because he is a Jew.
So
that's it.
But the point is that, like, we do 3 of those. But it's like the interesting thing about that is that's our take on it. Okay. Yeah. Whereas I know Louis got the whole he had in his show the whole thing about he did it on I think Letterman or wherever, where he was like, or Conan, that his daughter telling a joke is the greatest thing in the world. Like, why did they let him into the ballet? Because the people who made up the rules said you can't go in there. And he's like, it's so honest and truthful, and that's what it should be. And so I think, again, I was like, oh man, he's doing a thing about his kids doing jokes, and we do our thing too, but it's different.
Yeah, it's very different.
It's very different. And so I think what we try and present is like, so therefore, it's not like I'm the smart guy who came with this premise and brought it in. Jason, you be the dummy, and we'll do the
right. It's not like Smothers Brothers,
right?
No,
it's like
not.
Here is a premise. Here's an interesting fact in the world, and this is something that we've experienced, and this is how we engage with it. Now we're going to be able. The way we play it out in a funny way is we're going to do it either we're act it out together, or it's going to be like this 2-person tag team thing, and it just is different than one person doing it. And I think sometimes it's awesome, but then there are sometimes when an audience doesn't understand, it can't catch up with what you're trying to do, or the pacing isn't the right thing. A lot of times on TV, sometimes where like a TV audience is ready for setup, punchline.
We've had a hard time in the short, like 4-minute, 30-second sets on TV. Some of them have worked out fine, but other ones where bits that we do in clubs that just crush or do really well for us, like we're suddenly out there on a limb going, well, are you serious? This isn't getting a good response? Mm-hmm. Or this joke, which, like, any comic will tell you when you have like 12 jokes in a bit, you got the first joke. If they laugh at that, then they're going to love the 6th joke and the 9th joke. But if they don't laugh at the first joke, then those 2 jokes are fucked. Then you're hoping they laugh at the 3rd joke, because that's also kind of the same vein of like the 8th joke and the 12th joke. So it's like that kind of thing, and you start doing the math in your mind, and then you're suddenly not in the moment, and you're not having a good time. So I think we're just a different pacing, and we're still, and that goes back to your question of would we do comedy apart. I just think we have more to figure out together in what we're evolving towards. I don't even know what that's going to be in stand-up. But like, if we can get there, I'd like to keep trying. So I'm asking you, Randy, would you please keep doing comedy?
I'm asking you, Allison, can we keep trying?
Please do.
Okay,
And to change gears slightly, you guys were both married. Did you guys get married around the same time?
No. I got married in 2001. It was like a very different time. I got married like pre 9/11. I mean, it's 9/11 today when we're recording this, but like I got married June 24th, 2001. We went to Bali for our honeymoon, which is a place that was later attacked. And, you know, it was truly, truly wonderful, and it was amazing but crazy because I came back and Jay had been in a relationship for 5 years with a girl who I thought he was going to marry. We all thought he did, and they broke up. So I got back and they were broken
all did
up.
except for her. No, I'm just kidding. But then I was single for a while, and then I met my wife for a year or so later, and we dated for a while, and so. You know, there was a period where he was newly married and I was totally single and living by myself.
Yeah, what was it? Were you guys living together before that?
No.
Okay.
We lived together briefly when we came out here, and then when I had met my wife in New York, and then I moved in with her.
And I moved in with my girlfriend at the time, and then I lived alone that year when I was, by myself, and then shortly after that, I moved in with my wife.
What was that like for you being alone during that time?
It was great. I mean, it was super hard, but in the end, for me, I loved it because I got a chance to just live a different life than I had lived for a long time, and being in a different place than him comedically was interesting too. When we tried to write some comedy about that as we were going through that, and we would do a show called The Uncabaret, which was Beth Lapidus' show.
Oh, I remember. Where did you used to do that?
We did it at the HBO Workspace, which is now the Comedy Central Workspace, or it's some other. Now it's I don't know what it is, but it was right on Seward, that theater right there.
Cool little black box theater, and we started doing some of that stuff. And that show was a show where you weren't allowed to do your material; you just sort of had to talk about your life. And it's just funny people telling real stories about their lives, and that would be funny. And so
it's so funny is I'd tell a story about my honeymoon and how great it was, and how we were playing with monkeys in Bali. It was so great. You were feeding monkeys. It was just
and I would just be and I sat in my room
and just listening to Belle and Sebastian.
But no, and there were times like that where I was alone and nothing was going on, and I was by myself, and I was this is really shitty. And
but it was a good thing for us because it showed that we can be in different directions. We don't have to be on the same page. And I think
which I think comes back to our act is that's a way more nuanced approach to that act. Sometimes we're totally on the same page. Sometimes we're opposed to each other. Sometimes we're two heads of the same side arguing an issue and backing each other up, and then sometimes we're stopping each other, and that's the more sort of real representation of what any relationship is. A marriage, two best friends.
Off stage, do you guys fight a lot?
Oh, we fight. Definitely.
Yeah,
I mean, in the same way that people who work together and are brothers.
I think we fight a lot less now in our lives because this work relationship and what we do is our relief.
I get most of my fighting done with my children.
Yeah. Take it out on my kids.
If someone recorded me just get downstairs, put your shoes on, put them on.
You have got
put them on.
crap
Your sister's
in your
going to be
diaper.
late. Your sister is going to be. I mean, it's
when you're done when you do that for hours, and then you put your kids, then you have a chance to get together. It's you don't want to.
Let's eat some pretzels and write comedy. It's actually,
it's true. It's
a peaceful thing.
I was watching. Hard Knocks. This season of Hard Knocks has been amazing because Miami is
amazing,
just imploding all over the place.
Ridiculous.
The end of that last episode where the plane backs into another plane.
Crazy.
That's
crazy.
How can you plan for that?
You can't.
That's fucking awesome.
You can't. And the producers of I know the guys on the team were really upset about that at times. Some of them were, but the producers of the show must have been fucking
thank you,
jackpot.
Jesus. Yeah, it was phenomenal. But there was one moment in there where and I'm not knocking having kids. By the way, we love having kids. It's just a ton of hard work, and it's definitely antithetical to doing comedy and creating comedy.
Comedy and stand-up comedy is a single man or single woman's game. That is it. You stay up late every night. You go out every night. You do shows every night.
You live in your head.
You live in your head.
Every
you have
night
to have
is
a
a
partner
festival.
who it just accepts that you go do that. And if you're doing really well, then you'll have adulation and you'll have probably offers of sex from people in the crowd. So your person has to be totally secure of that. If you're not doing
It's
well,
a real narcissistic kind of pursuit.
It's super narcissistic.
In order to be great, you got to have it's got to be ego-driven in that way.
Do you both have partners who are cool with all those aspects of it? I'm not talking about the offers of sex, but I mean the sort of.
Well, we don't get a ton of our fans tend to be dudes. So there aren't.
Hey, they can offer sex.
They can
Yes,
offer
they
sex
can.
too, and sometimes they do.
They
But and I'm flattered from both sides of the plate.
Honestly,
I'll take a
I'll take
compliment
it.
from either side of the plate. No, but I
Yeah,
think
sometimes our
sometimes
wives are
our
great.
wives are sometimes they're great.
Sometimes our wives are great.
Sometimes they are great, and I think they're different. I mean, my wife
Yeah.
used to do a little comedy, and so she, like, it's long, long ago, she understands what it's like to stand on stage, how difficult it is to stand on
I
stage.
can't
and create.
imagine. I honestly think that they are how anyone would be. You know, in these situations, how I would probably be if I wasn't a comic and I was dating a comic. I would probably at times be like, "You're not seriously going out again tonight to do comedy after like 3 nights in a row," or I'd be like, "Great, go! I want to hear about it," or "I don't want to hear about it," or "Tell me about." I mean, it's like
Like
it's a mix.
we're going out of town this weekend. When is this thing going up? Is this
In 3 weeks.
3 weeks? Okay, so I'm not going to promote these shows. This will already be gone. But we're going out of town this weekend to do a show in Omaha at this very cool theater, The Waiting Room, and then the next night we're in Columbus, Ohio. Then the next day we're throwing out the first pitch at the Indians-Tigers game at the Progressive Field in Cleveland. Then that night we're performing at a cool club in Cleveland. Very excited about that trip for a lot of reasons. Throwing out a first pitch is like a dream of ours. Doing these shows and working in rock clubs, and we know that our fans are coming out to these shows. Very, very excited about doing that. But, it's like, in my mind, I'm like, we should be going out like a couple nights this week to just do material, just to get right back in the flow before we go out there and do it. My wife, I just talked to her before I got here today, and she's like, "Are you home tonight?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she's like, "Yay!"
Yeah.
And it's like that moment in the split screen in Annie Hall where it's like, "You guys having sex?" And she's like, "Ugh, all the time, 3 times a week." And then his therapist is like, "You having sex?" And he's like, "Never, 3 times a week." And so I think there's that aspect of it too. We always feel like,
We're never out enough. I'm like, if we were really serious, there are times where I'm like, if we were serious, if we ever have a bad set or we're trying new stuff and it's not working, I'm like, we are not going out doing comedy enough. But if you go out and do comedy all the time, then you're a shitty partner.
Yeah, it's all you have.
Especially if your partner works during the day. And so, it's like those things are just hard. And
It's just to grapple with whatever. Most people deal with, like, there are firemen who have to deal with, like, coming out of a building with
and they don't
kids.
understand real
Yeah, but
problems.
I haven't
like
had
us.
them on this podcast.
That's right.
So.
But what I'm saying, I'm not trying to pump up what our stuff. This is just the stuff that we have to sort of deal with.
And what do both your wives do?
My wife is a therapist.
And my wife's an interior designer. Has her own company, which is another thing.
Same with my wife.
Building your own
Yeah.
business is like
They both run their own
we have to
businesses.
support that too. I mean, the crazy thing is, I'm like, I don't know how we're doing this and trying to maintain a normal life where you're a family unit, and provide and all that other stuff. It's to me, it's a tremendous balancing act. There are moments where I'm like, this is a house of cards. If one thing fell, we'd all. And by the way, I feel like I can't get sick. If I got sick and was laid up for like 3 or 4 days, our house would fall apart. Like everybody.
Or I got a jury duty notice, and I was like, fuck. Technically, I guess I could do it, but like that means that a week.
I'm ready to use the N-word just to get out of it.
Yes. Which is no, I won't go to jury duty. I mean, seriously, I was really like, I don't know, man. I don't think I can do that. I mean, what if I got to stay open? What if we get a job?
Yeah.
I mean, I really have to tell them no and just keep lying. I don't know what I'm going to do. And so, like, when you live kind of like that at times, you're sort of like, what the hell am I doing? I'm 40 years old and I'm living like this. I'm dodging shit. But I mean, that's part of it. That's the downside. And the upside
is we're throwing out a fucking first pitch this Sunday at a baseball, and it's born out of the fact on the back of what we've created. Our career, like kind
Who's
of up to this
throwing
point.
it?
I think we're both going to get to.
They're both going to throw it. Our dream is that, and we'll obviously when this airs, it will have already happened. But
Who threw it?
We both
threw it?
did.
What happened was, I think what I'd love to have happen, but we need to get somebody from the Indians to sort of do this with us, is one of us throws the first pitch from the mound, and then the pitching coach comes out, gets the ball away, brings in Jason or whoever from the bullpen, and then we do
And then I want to throw at someone. I want to throw at someone's head.
That's
I
absolutely.
want to throw at the
I hope you pull that off.
at the color guard.
That's
just
great.
throw it
The
at the color-
9-year-old girl who's singing the national anthem, just whoosh.
The
Take
idea
that.
of the pitching coach yanking the first
right,
pitch,
and then you
that's
go out.
Brilliant.
You go out. Thank you.
And I think, Randy,
That's
you
excellent.
you
I
have
have been
to like
practicing-
and get angry. By the way, I've been working on throwing a hook. Now it's
And I've been working throwing Kent Tekulve submarine style. Have you ever seen someone submarine a pitch, Dan
No.
Quisenberry style?
Never.
I'm going to do that shit.
So we're taking it seriously, but we're really excited. And that's like this moment where you go, holy crap, look what we got to do. Look what we're getting to do. It's a gift. It's amazing. I feel so blessed, to come to a city and like have your fans come out and see your show. I mean, if you were a stand-up, you would see like straight out of, if you were traveling and doing shows, that your podcast fans are like gold. They're like the best. They know you so well inside and out.
Yeah. Well, I do this. I do my podcast live sometimes.
So
though,
you
so
get it.
I
You
know
get
what
it.
you mean.
You
Yeah.
get it. So when they come out, they're privy to all of your inside details
Yeah.
and what you share on the show. They feel like they know you, and so it's the best fans ever. And so for us, that's just a treat to go out and do that. And we have to deal with sometimes. You leave someone at home who has to deal with everything, and so you deal with bummers that happen when you're gone. But like ultimately, it's
Super fun.
gift. It's
All
phenomenal.
right. I think we don't have very much time, but I think quickly we should do just me or everyone.
Let's do it.
Do it.
Sometimes I ponder on something I have thought or done. Is it just me or everyone?
All right. I'm taking a quick photo of you guys. That's what that pause was. Okay, so this is where people write in things they do or think, and they wonder, is it just me or everyone? And then
Sure.
we say whether that's just them.
Great.
Daniel Muse 88. I wear earbuds at work, but I don't like to eat snacks or lunch with them in. Love your show.
Everyone.
Everyone loves the
Everyone.
show, but
Everybody
regarding
does.
yes,
Oh,
but,
we're not
but
doing
the earbuds.
You just leave them in because you don't want to talk to people? Or no,
No,
they
he
don't.
doesn't
Well,
wanna-
he doesn't like to eat with them in, and I totally relate to that because when you chew with something in your ear, it just sounds all weird.
And it also causes it to fall out.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. It's
not
That's
just you,
everyone.
buddy.
That's not just you.
It's everyone. Okay. A. Veronesi says, if I like the fortune, I eat part of the cookie to make sure it comes true. I've never done that, but I like that.
I always
Who
eat
doesn't
the
eat the
cookie.
whole fucking cookie? Like,
Yeah,
who's-
you're right.
who's
That's why I've never
who's
done that.
rationing out like a
That's why I've never done that.
don't eat the cookie.
I'm going to do 4 words. It's a fucking cookie.
Yeah.
Everyone should eat
the
it.
cookie. To
It's
me,
like 4.5.
fortune and like by the
know,
way,
contraction.
have we sort of run out of fortunes? I feel like now most of the fortunes, and I don't know
The
if
other
somebody's ever done
night, I
this.
was
They're
at
just
dinner. There was a
observations.
bunch of us there,
It's gonna
and
be in-
2 of us have the exact same fortune. What the hell is that?
That and like it's going to be.
Do you remember Gary Shandling's old great joke about that?
I don't think I do.
His old joke about the this is from that day, back in the day. He's like, I opened a fortune cookie and it said, I peed in your rice. And then he was like, should this be handwritten? Hilarious. That's just a great joke.
Great joke.
And of course, Zach Galifianakis' great fortune cookie joke, which is he opened a fortune cookie and said, "You will have diarrhea." There you go. And that's probably the truest fortune.
But I just feel like they're no longer fortunes. Like it's like
Yeah.
you open up one and it's like
you are a nice person.
or like congratulations Arab Spring. That has nothing to do with anything.
Yeah.
They should start sponsoring fortunes. That would be great.
The Arab Spring.
Yes, the Arab Spring
This
sponsored
fortune is
by
brought to you by the
Irish, sponsored by Irish Spring.
Why isn't the Arab Spring a soap?
It should be.
Right?
So
It really
just-
should be. Okay.
Someone
there's 8 jokes.
whistling in the desert.
Yeah.
Boudoir and Babe. I can't dry my hands unless both hands are wet, even if I only got one hand wet while doing something. It feels weird. That's just you.
That's just you.
That is just you. That's way too complicated.
Yeah.
You're going to be on my weird obsession.
Yeah. Drying a dry hand is. I actually think that's a good luck in most cultures.
It is.
Probably.
To dry a dry hand.
Yeah.
A dried hand in the bush. What is that? That's a something.
A dried hand in the bush is worth two
could be
wet. Is worth two
uncomfortable.
wet ones in your pants.
Crazy Metal Fan says, when watching a movie, hold my breath while the characters are underwater to see if I would have survived. Ooh, I like that. I don't think I do that.
Yeah, that's just you, but more people should do that.
Yes.
Right. That's just you, but I wish more people did.
I'm
Yeah.
going to start doing that.
Me
Yeah,
too.
Phenomenal.
All right, Colleen says, if I have a pimple the size of Neptune on my face, I feel like I have to talk about it and say, oh, this isn't always here. Yes, I tend to draw attention
You
to
always
things
do.
that I'm uncomfortable
Have you-
about as
I mean,
well.
can I offer up an opening line?
Please.
Have you met my friend? There you go. There you go.
Oh, that's good.
There you go. Have you
That's
met my
good.
friend?
Yeah, that's nice.
Or if you were going to a restaurant and it's just you can be like table for 2 and then point to it.
That's also good. Okay, underscore. If I'm traveling alone and get a hotel room with 2 beds, I always sleep in the one furthest from the door.
I get that.
change it up.
You don't want to get murdered. I get
Oh, that's why.
well, you don't want to get murdered so quickly. You need them to make 2 more steps.
it. So, stumble over another bed before they murder.
No, I think that it's all about TV positioning. It's
Right.
like which bed has the better quick angle at the TV.
For me, it's about being near the phone,
Right.
even though I'm never going to use that
No,
phone.
because if the phone's going to give you a wake-up call, you need
Yes,
that. Or
the
you want
alarm
it
clock.
further away so it really wakes you up.
So
you don't want to be able to
further
see
yeah,
it
that's
off.
good.
So it's just where the phone positioning has a lot to do with it.
Okay.
So it's not just you.
and great, by the way, great Twitter handle. Underscore,
Yeah.
and then the Twitter handle, the word
It's-
underscore.
Yeah, I think it's actually underscore, then underscore spelled out, and then another
Underscore.
at the
It's
end.
great, but
It's
imagine
amazing.
That's
what it's
not
like
gilding
for
the
that
lily at
person
all.
telling, like, find me on Twitter.
That's why
Underscore.
Yeah.
difficult.
I like it just saying it. Okay.
Amanda Allen
Virginia.
probably.
Allen, Virginia.
Does people's lack of being able to determine the difference between there, or there drive you insane? Just me? Yes.
I would just
but-
start that by saying do people's.
I know. I would too. But I recently used YOUR when I meant YOU''RE, which
Different
made
thing,
me
though.
but it made me feel awful in that usually I notice when other people do that.
Yeah, look,
but yeah, that it all bugs me.
It all,
Get it
all
right. Get it
grammar,
right.
grammar stuff all bugs me.
There is lots of rules in grammar, and you
But I
got
don't
There
think
am.
you can. I don't think you can make that grammar thing and say does people's.
I
No.
know, but you know what? You know another thing I hate is a lot as one word. It's two words. A
Yeah.
lot.
I hate it a lot.
I hate it a lot.
You know what I don't like is noon for no one. Have you seen people write
Noon.
NOONE?
Right.
Like, no, it's two words.
Peter
no
Noon.
one is two words.
Peter
No.
Noon used to do that all the time.
He did.
Yeah.
All right. Next one.
All right. But I have to say, and I've said this before on the podcast, I no longer know the correct usage of a comma. I'm baffled by commas. I'm a writer.
Commas can be a little baffling.
Yeah, okay. Broseph Coast. Whenever there is a mirror present, I look at myself. Just me. I do that too.
Everyone.
I
Everyone.
drive. Sometimes I look at myself while I'm driving. Sometimes
Even
all the time.
vampires do that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you don't have to be good looking. But everyone.
It's not vanity. It's more like I'm doing you guys a favor by not looking ugly.
Yeah, but and you know what? That's just what it is. It's like we all know we're not supermodels. 99.9% of us aren't supermodels, but you have
Speak
a
for
range.
yourself.
Well, yeah, I'm saying me. You
Right.
are, but we
You have a range. Sometimes you
range.
look great, and sometimes you look
If
like
you have
garbage.
if you have a chance in the mirror to go from a 74 to like an 86,
You're gonna
just
take
with
it.
like a quick hair
Cloth.
move.
You're going to take it.
You're gonna take that.
take that.
And I respect you for that.
Not just you, Broseph.
You're not
Coast.
being vain.
But isn't that weird how sometimes just one hair move can move you up that
Totally.
that
13
percentage?
That's the
13%.
arbitrary nature of life.
Yeah,
I know.
that's life.
That's why you got to find someone who
that's
loves you for your
That's some
comedy.
kind of uncertainty principle. I feel like not Heisenberg, but someone else.
Yeah.
Vidal Sassoon's.
Losenberg.
Yeah.
I think it's the Hawthorne effect.
Okay, Lazy Comedy says, every time I clean and wipe down a faucet, I feel like I'm jacking off a robot. I like that. I've never
I love
felt that
that.
way.
I'll tell you the way that you will feel even more like you're jacking off a robot if you have one of those touch turn-on faucets.
Oh, because
So
then it'll...
as you're wiping it down, then it'll discharge water.
The
and
question
that
is
makes
if
it
it's
feel
hot
more-
water
Yeah.
or not. The
Yeah.
hotter the water, I feel like the more ejaculatory it is.
Okay, you just brought up something that made me think of it just me or everyone. I know somebody who has that automatic faucet thing.
Right.
But they make it so that you have to put the handle in the right position so that when you touch it, it'll come on. So there's like an
Right.
off position. So
Right.
if you walk up and touch it, nothing will happen.
That's like the lock key on your phone.
Right, exactly. This person refuses to leave it in the open position, thus defeating the purpose of
That
the
is.
touch. And I think that it's an assault.
Total
Do
assault.
they have children or no?
Me.
Oh.
I'm the youngest.
Oh.
Oh.
Okay.
What the fuck?
This
terrible.
person
My
happens
parents.
to your parents.
Yeah,
It's your
well,
parents. Oh.
It
well.
doesn't
Try-
make any, and they think on some level that they're saving water
I don't
by,
know.
by switching it to the off position.
No, it's not like it's not like your iPhone charger. If it's plugged in the wall, it's still doing electricity. If it's in
Exactly.
the open position, it's fine.
it
Yeah.
only turns on when you touch it.
I think she once said to me, "That'll wear it out,"
That
and I was like, "They're D batteries that you replace once every 4 years. Like,
That's
I'll,
like-
I'll pay for them."
That's like Nixon going to China and like doing the whole John Hay open door policy and then never being able to trade with them ever.
That's
again.
what I said to him. Exactly
Right?
that.
Allison and I had the same
Yeah.
conversation.
I think it's time now to do a quick...
Hey, go fuck yourself.
Okay, so this is where usually I stumble across a message board comment or
Yes.
someone leaves me a shitty comment,
Yep.
but I have made a concerted effort not to expose myself to that stuff as much, which but the segment has suffered.
Yeah.
So let's hear one.
But here's
do
one.
we need
Now
to do
this,
ours?
Oh, yeah.
We have plenty.
Please. But this one, so I was looking at the comments on the Adam Carolla show, and Greg Fitzsimmons was on yesterday.
Love
Fitzy
Fitz
just
dog.
did his
He's
show.
great.
Love him.
But, there was this, he's seen as a, libtard.
Oh.
So here's a comment from someone on that show. Can't wait to, and I'm giving him that kind of voice.
yeah.
Can't wait to find out what radical, anti-religious, anti-conservative, left-wing hate he will spew this time. Usually finds a way to get in some anti-Catholic bashing too. Question: to the 50 or so stand-up comedians and comic actors who denounced Roman Catholicism, married left-wing liberal Jewish girls, and became liberal atheists, is that paying off for you? I mean, are you really getting that big movie yet? Or when does that pay off, and how? So this person needs to go fuck themselves because, there's so many reasons on the surface of it, but that's not how the world works.
Well, he missed the point. I'm assuming it's a he.
Yeah, I imagine.
He missed the point because... Scientology is the only religion that can actually get you work.
I'm glad
Being a
you
Jew
did.
does
Yeah.
not. If it did, we'd be much more successful.
Of course.
We're as Jewy as it gets. I just think it's... this is blind faith. And this is what I was talking about before when I was saying, encouraging debate amongst people. The most dangerous people in this country, and you'll watch it during the election, are the fucking blind faith. Yeah. And by the way, there are blind faith Jews out there, like the Jews who are building settlements in the middle of, trying to, stop peace from happening there. They're fucking bad, too. It's bad on every side, okay?
It's extremism.
Fundamental extremism and blind faith is terrible.
Tim Tebow fans.
I hear Tim Tebow fans. That's a great example on something that doesn't mean anything or matter. Tim Tebow fans think he's the greatest thing ever. Well, he's not. He technically is not, and he's not the second coming of Christ.
You can argue that he's a winner and that he has some great qualities. Absolutely. Is he a great quarterback? No.
He's terrible. Great guy, shitty quarterback. And it's but you have to be able to separate those two, and blind faith people don't.
Right.
So the second Greg Fitzsimmons says anything about, I don't believe in Catholicism and it didn't work for me because of this, and this is a bunch of fucking shit. This person is going to be like, I hate him and I hate everything that he says. It's you can't...
Honestly, you know what I say to that? That's what my 3-year-old says when I tell him he can't do the thing that he wants to do. You're a fucking baby. Grow your brain up and support what you want to support. If someone doesn't like what you like I said about Carolla, he came on our show and said some stuff that, quite honestly, I disagreed with. And we even said so a little bit in it. Does it make me think that he's not a smart guy? Does it make me think that we don't...
He's a bad guy?
No!
No, not in the least.
And honestly, I'm not going to judge the totality of who he is on one comment that he makes about this thing that gets blown up.
Again, nuanced lifestyle is better than black and white.
Yeah. First, what's getting to me about this, though, is the idea that someone falls in love or pretends to be in love and marries someone and renounces a certain belief system and becomes something else because they think that will get them work. That's the most naive view.
Maybe
and
some people are doing it.
But this person's capable of thinking that way.
But let me say this.
This person probably thinks he'd get work if he could just,
Okay, I'm going to now talk down to this person even more by saying, I'm going to allow your opinion to be maybe true. I'm going to allow that, there are probably some people out there who, believe if they married into this thing that they would then get work. You're probably right.
They believe that, yeah.
They believe that. And maybe they do get work. So maybe you're right in this statement. But the fact that I'm allowed I bet you've never said the words, maybe you're right, to anyone who didn't have your set of beliefs. And for that, I say, fuck you.
Go fuck yourself with your own fucking stupid stick.
Yeah, hey, go fuck yourself. And also...
Hey, go fuck yourself.
There's a lot of build-up, but
was
quite a
awesome.
payoff. Do you guys
Suspenseful.
need to tell anyone to fuck themselves?
I do. There was a guy who, and I'm not going to say his name because it just doesn't even matter.
No.
There was a guy who, from high school, total fucking douchebag who... and you look on someone's Twitter feed because, again, he wrote our names in and said, I see you're still the stupid fucking idiots from whatever. It's he's go get some fucking writers, whatever he said. He's a lawyer in St. Louis. I was just you fucking dumb, stupid piece of shit. You're who the fuck did you date rape to get married? Who did you force into your situation so that you would be married? How in the fact you're a lawyer, the fact that you're in charge of anything
and
is
you're
beyond
a grown-up.
You're grown up.
He's an adult. Isn't he supposed to not be doing this shit?
He's our age. He's 40. And I'm just you are just this grizzled heap of broken dreams.
Yeah.
You shitty
Willy
fucking
Loman.
person. Yeah. You're a terrible person.
Yeah.
And, go fuck yourself because you deserve to go fuck yourself.
Go fuck yourself for for feeling the need. Like, take that hate and spit it out somewhere else. But why do you have to put that hate in
Because
our direction?
I never threw that out there. We've never thrown that out in any direction towards anybody. But I'm
Right.
going to throw it out at him right now and say that after I read that, I went upstairs to my kids' bedroom. They were both sleeping. I kissed them both, and I said a prayer saying, thank God I'm not this fucking asshole.
Yeah, hey.
Hey, go fuck yourself.
Thank you, Jason. Do you have one?
No, I'm good.
Okay, you can share that one.
No, I'm down with
Not
that.
because you're less than
No,
a
but
whole
he said
person,
it to
but
both of
just
us.
yeah.
So when people do shitty stuff for us, we block them first thing, and then refresh our Twitter feed so they're gone. That's the
good.
first thing that you do, and that gets them
Yeah,
gone.
just move on. It's like I don't want to have to waste time.
Do you
And
ever write back to them?
Once,
Usually we
when
don't.
we were guests,
we were guest hosting Rome's radio
show, which is like, a big deal. It's a lot of markets, really fun. And some guy came, tweeted at us, didn't follow us, but made sure he found our name, our Twitter handle, and then put that into his email. Was like, writing to the producer of the show, I would rather have a vasectomy than and he misspelled pain. He spelled it Paon, pain medication, than listen to the Sklar Brothers on the radio right now. And so our attitude was like, I saw that and I said, oh, this fucking guy thinks that he's going to just throw some shit and some hate out in the universe and throw it our way with zero consequences or zero repercussions. So on the air, we were like, so this guy comes in and this is his tweet and this is his Twitter handle. And we just were like, oh, you just came into a knife fight and stabbed yourself with your own shitty fucking spelling. Like, if you're going to go after people, then why don't you fucking
Get it right, dude.
Get it
Yeah.
right.
No pay on, no gay on.
And so we just started hammering him for and we kept bringing it back and bringing it
And
up.
reading other people's tweets, hamming him.
So
and it was
all
just,
these people started
it
hammering
was
him.
so fucking beautiful. And then he kind of acquiesced.
He came back and he was like, "Oh, I guess not in a bad way. He actually tried to be nice about it, but
Yeah,
even
he can
at that,
still go fuck himself.
yeah, go fuck yourself.
Yeah, hey, that guy.
Hey, you know what? Hey,
Go fuck yourself.
Fuck yourself.
exactly.
Well, you guys, thank you so much for doing my
What a
show.
blast. We'll have
this
you
has
on ours.
been a delight. People can find you on Twitter at
Sklar Brothers.
and they can find you on the web at...
We're just launching our new website. It's going to come out probably in the next week
Probably
or so.
it'll be out by the time the show is
By
out.
the time the show's out, it's called supersklars.com, and we actually spent a lot of time with the great designer to put it all together, and it is going to have everything. If you want to follow us on Twitter, you want to follow us on Facebook, you want to know when we buy tickets for our shows, all that stuff, supersklars.com.
Podcast has all podcast
All that
information,
stuff.
and you know what? You'll alert them when you're coming on our podcast, which will happen in the
That's
coming
right.
weeks.
I sure will. And if you want to follow me on Twitter at Alison Rosen, if you want to follow the show's Twitter feed at ARIYNBF, if you want to email the show, that is ARIYNBF at adamcarolla.com. You can follow Gary at GPatrickSmith. And if you're going to buy something on Amazon, which you are because they have everything, then why not click through the banner on my website, AlisonRosen.com. And it doesn't cost you anything, but that helps the show. And thank you for listening. I love you guys. Bye.
Hey, do you know about the Alison Rosen show? We had a good time, but now we gotta go. Thank you for choosing the Alison Rosen show. Alison Rosen is your new best friend. That's right. That's right. Those good times don't seem to end. That's right. That's right. Alison Rosen is your new best friend. Hey, do you know about the Alison Rosen show? We had a good time, but now it's time to go. Hope to see you next time for the Alison Rosen show. Yeah!
This is Corolla Digital.